This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.
County Commission workshop for July 20th, 2020 to order. The first order of business is general public comments. First up on the list is Jim Deasem and Bill Taylor talking about our place, which is the Alzheimer's daycare over in Tellico Village. Step to the podium and tell us what's on your mind.
Did you say the names again, please?
It's Jim Dezzutti and Bill Taylor.
Yeah,
I'm Bill Taylor.
That's Jim.
I'm the other guy. Well, thank you for listening to us. We're going to be a new facility here in Loudon County. We'll be open to about 5 different counties once we come open. It's going to be an adult day center for individuals who are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. When you look at the numbers here in Loudon County, conservatively, there's about 7,200 people, counting caregivers and those impacted that are affected by the disease. We hope to break ground around January 2nd. We're in fundraising right now. Our goal is $620,000. We don't have an estimate for the building. We hope to have the estimate for the building in the next few weeks. As far as the fundraising goes, we're off to a pretty successful start. We're at about 130 of the 620 that we need after about a month and a half of fundraising, so we're pretty happy with that. What we're looking for tonight is just to make you aware that we're here, that we're going to open the facility, and that anything you can do to help us, one, to get the word out, help us with our fundraising. We're not looking for money from you all, we're just looking for help in getting the word out. We would appreciate that very much. Bill?
Not a whole lot more to say. I'm on the building committee for the board, and Jim is actually doing all the other jobs of the board. So if you have any questions about the new facility, I can answer those pretty well.
I think it's an outstanding idea. In that community, for sure, my goodness, what a service that would be.
No doubt we will be of value to that community, but we're not exclusive to that community. We don't want to be exclusive to that community. We are anxious to serve the region, not just...
Even though the property's on the corner of 444 and 72, it's not meant to be just for Tellico Village. We really are. I've been out in Loudon County, I've been out in Monroe County, I've been everywhere I can to let people know this is for the community. And when you take both communities together, it's over 12,000 people that are impacted by this disease. And when you stop and think about it, it's not just the person that's impacted, but everybody around them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job if you have somebody that's...
Well, right now the closest facility is going to be up at Cade's, which is in Barrington, so we're going to drive from Tellico Village to...
Case right now is closed.
Without Pastor Charlie, we would be nowhere right now. Pastor Charlie has raised probably 65% of the funds that we have so far today.
He's riding his motorcycle 7,000 miles.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the next thing, big thing coming
I
up.
think Jeremy did a little article here that will be out in the News Herald this week that you'll all be able to read about that. Any questions? Anything we can answer for you?
Just appreciate y'all very much. Appreciate this.
Thank you. We appreciate you too. Looking forward to serving.
As the commissioner from the village, I commend you. And I wouldn't be fair if I didn't commend Sue Newman too.
Yes. Yeah.
You have done an outstanding job.
Thank you.
But the problem's going to be, it's going to be too small.
Well, we know that, and we've got plans built in. Right now, it'll house up to 25 people on a daily basis, and we can expand that. But first, we need to get the first 25 going, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we do have room on the site to expand to double our size pretty much.
Good.
We may be doing that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank y'all for your time.
Support that effort.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeannie Barker from Lenore City Schools, step up to the podium.
Hello, Commissioners. Since I'm a little bit far away, I'm going to take this off. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight about a concern that I have. First of all, I want to say that all of our school systems here in the county and the city have been recognized this past year as being exemplary, and so I just want to recognize the hard work of all of our teachers and our administrators in accomplishing that fact. In addition, all the schools in Lenore City are also reward schools, so there's a lot of hard work going on, and so it's my job to make sure that they are well supported. So as we look at the newspaper from last Wednesday, I saw where the commission was going to consider changing funding for Lenore City schools. And so that certainly raised my concern when I learned of that in the newspaper. And the statement that was made by Mr. Shaver that it will not really affect Lenore City schools if you make this change is incorrect. Let me say that. First of all, the amount of money that is going to be discussed a little bit later on is just shy of $50,000, and that is substantial. That is in our current budget, which has already been approved by our school board and the city council. As we work hard this year, you know the challenges that we're facing, and you know that we serve students from all over Loudon County as well as Lenore City. And we're using our dollars as efficiently as we can to provide safe and effective schooling for our students. Some of you on the commission know about the lengths that we've gone to acquire PPE for our teachers, sanitizing equipment for our schools, hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies. So we have been looking toward the best we can to make sure that we are opening schools in a healthy way. Because you know what? We believe that our mission is to educate students. To educate students so that they can be educated voters and effective members of the community. So that's our job. We are all about that. So I would say with the increase in our numbers, last year alone, we had 92 new students at Lenore City High School. So we are growing. And to do anything that would remove any funding from our school system would be detrimental. It would be doing harm. So I ask you to do no harm. Thank you.
Dr. Martin?
Thank you.
Yes.
I want to step up to the plate, and initially in the budget process, I brought up looking at the AFT, and as I advocated at that time, and as I advocate right now, if we can sit down with you, see where the money is going, if it's being utilized for AFT, as we passed this in '06, and what effect it would have on your budget and other things. I think that would be a good first step. So I want to make sure that you understand, I brought this up initially, but I brought it up also of trying to have dialogue with the school system and sitting down, and we were looking at every pot of money we could dealing with the budget, as you know, and it was a pretty large amount that was undisturbed at this time. So I want to step up and not let Mr. Shaver take all the blame. I'm bellying up to the bar, so to speak, and that's it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mears. I appreciate that because, yes, I was pretty mad at you, Mr. Shaver.
Wasn't the first time, I'll bet, was it?
I'm honest. And so we can have this kind of dialogue. I have my business manager with me here today, and we can honestly say this is a definite challenge to our school system to make sure that we are using every dollar that we have available to make sure we continue to have these kind of results that we're having. And in this day and time, safety is number one. And so we are putting all of our allocated money, and it's already allocated for this budget this year, to go forth to make sure that we open schools safely. So I'll be glad to talk with you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Does that take off your back, Mr. Shaver?
You did good.
I apologize for any thoughts I might have had,
That's all
Mr.
right.
Shaver.
You think less in a little while, but that's okay.
He'll do something later on, so don't apologize. Thank you. Okay, before I turn it over to Jim Jenkins and the zoning issues, I'm going to make a couple changes on the agenda. Adam Waller, your zoning stuff will come in right after C when Jim is done. Kelly Brewster, yours will go to the end. And Tracy, when we're done the first two items under my name, you're free to go. Van will take care of the budget amendments.
Are you gonna move the jail up to the, right after the zoning stuff? Because
No.
right now, we've got solid waste before the jail. We at least need to rotate those two.
We can do that. Is that all right with Steve? Okay.
We're gonna run out of space at the top. We keep moving it.
Yeah, you can't put everybody at the top. Okay, anybody have any problem with that? If not, Jim Jenkins, step up to the podium and tell us the zoning issues.
First item is a resolution amending the zoning map of Loudon County, Tennessee pursuant to Chapter 713-7-105 of the Tennessee Code annotated to rezone approximately 17.3 acres from A1 Agricultural Forestry District to M1 General Industrial District, Loudon County Tax Map 006, parcel 021.01, located at 16250 El Camino Lane, Loudon County, Tennessee, situated in the 5th Legislative District.
That's in our district, Mr. Chairman, mine and Commissioner Duff's. It's a business that's been operating at the end of the earth up there, to be very honest with you. It's a mulch, tree chopping, I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, they've been operating big time, and Jim spotted them out and said, guys, you're not zoned right, and I think the gentleman was very cooperative about it.
Yes, he is here.
And so he's asking his rezone, and I certainly have no issue with it. It's an appropriate place for it, and getting the rezone corrected is real good.
Okay. Any other comments? That'll be on the August 3rd commission meeting. Okay. B.
This is a resolution to amend the Loudon County zoning resolution, Article 5 zoning district, Section 5.043, R1 suburban residential district, pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated Section 13-7-105.
2.5.
This is for a little history, this is the PUD section was amended a few years ago in the R1 section districts where it allows PUDs to be a maximum of 2.5 units per acre. And there was some thought that took care of a lot of all the properties, but there was a section in the R1 zoning that talks about multifamily development. And that was left out, and there's some that thought that was included and some that thought that was not out. Okay, this merely clarifies by amending these sections that whether it's a PUD, multifamily development, whatever it is in that R1 district, that development will be 2.5 units per acre. And so this chart basically sets that unit and it removes that table in that same section.
And we voted for this to send the planning commission, I'm going to say probably in March or February, and with all the missed meetings and stuff, it's taken this time, this long to come back from us to the planning commission, back to us as a recommendation from the planning commission.
It is a recommendation, yes, sir.
Any other comments?
So that's everything. That's including the PUDs and...
Everything.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, that covers everything at a maximum.
Okay. We'll add that to the August 3rd commission meeting. Number C.
We got number C on here.
Yeah, R1 current, proposed language for referral by the Loudon County Commission.
That should be.
I think she added that for this current and proposed this documentation, which is what I was covering. That was just the highlighted to show you all what the current standard is and what's being changed in that.
I think there was just a communication issue there.
I got you.
Yeah.
Pardon me, Tammy's home.
Well, stay right where you are.
Okay, go ahead, Adam Waller.
So, as your ad hoc zoning committee's been talking about stuff, PUDs always comes up. So tell us what a PUD is in your mind.
Truthfully, I think a PUD is a plan unit development, and really, it would look to be like larger tracts of ground where you can have, it's supposed to be this integral and this thought-out concept of development. So when you think of a PUD, in my opinion, you're looking at something like Avalon, which is a large tract. They have multi-uses. They have a golf course. They have a restaurant, things of that nature. Tennessee National is a PUD type development, even though it's in the city. Tellico Village, they have different things that's occurring, and that's really, when you say PUD, it has this facet that it's supposed to be an integral community of that nature.
And right now we're using PUDs for?
Typically, we're using PUDs to just increase density of development. A lot of them merely have just smaller lot sizes to allow the maximum density of that property currently.
Well, I know up on Highway 11, Stanford Bridge was supposed to have amenities in their preliminary plat for a PUD.
Yes, sir.
And then what happened in their final plat?
There were just things that happened and those amenities aren't there.
So,
What amenities should, could, or, again, you mentioned Avalon, Tennessee National, you have multi-use stuff, you have commercial, recreational, parks, open space, multifamily, single family.
There's nothing that specifies exactly what those amenities are to be, and when you read through that, the scope of what a PUD is, it leaves it to be a thoughtful, creative process in creating the development in and of itself. But there's definitely supposed to be some form of community that's formed through this that makes it unique in fashion, more or less.
Should most of them, in general, include things like walkways, play areas for kids, dog parks?
Yeah, I mean, that may be some of the
They
things.
have open space that are supposed to be included with a PUD?
Yes, sir, there are supposed to be things of that nature. And some of them have been as simple as even clubhouses and pools and walkways and spaces, but then we have these other PUD developments that are merely just dense development without anything provided.
so is even having just a clubhouse and a pool enough to really be a PUD?
And what a PUD was meant to be.
I really think a PUD is a larger concept of development, honestly. You can create a subdivision and just have a pool and a clubhouse and use that to sell the lots in your subdivision for amenities of that development. But a PUD is probably a larger scale development. Even there can be some slight commercial uses, government buildings, things of that nature, put in a real PUD development.
Doesn't a PUD have to have a certain amount of green space though?
It does. There's opening numbers in there, but a lot of times it's just
Very
A
small.
lot of times it's just vacant, unusable land that gets included.
Are detention
space.
ponds included in that number?
There's nothing that says, really a PUD concept is something you create and you present this concept to the board to show this overall concept, and that's where they discuss there should be interaction. Yeah, that's.
So what we're making
It's very open, honestly.
Yeah, and it's too open
Yes, sir.
For smaller numbers, in my opinion. So Van and I have been working on an R1, which currently has a 2 per acre. Looking at an R2, which has a little more dense, 15,000 square foot lots, which are already available in the cluster.
In a cluster.
Development. But increasing that PUD number, which we talked to Jim about, and his number that we talked about was 75 acres for a PUD to have a full thought-out plan. So that's just something to chew on. And
What's the minimum acres required?
Currently in the R1 and the C2 is 5 acres. In the A2 and C1 is 8 acres. They're pretty small tracts when you're talking about a great concept of development.
Many years ago, they were larger, and over time, they just kind of, I will call it previous planning of it, over time, they get smaller and smaller depending on who had some property they wanted to. A PUD essentially just lets you violate the zoning regulations is what it does. It's 2 per acre, but if you get a PUD, you get 2.5. So the ideal, if you're going to have a PUD with all these things it should have, you can't do that in 5 acres. There's no way. So to set a new minimum of what a PUD can be kind of makes it a little more lucrative to add the amenities to it. I mean, you can't take out a quarter of your subdivision if it's 5 acres and put the pool, the clubhouse, the walking trail, the dog park. They're not going to do it. They're going to do just like this one up there on Highway 11. He stuck as many houses in there as he could. He's got one little grown-up bushy spot back there in the back, and that's it. and that's all it's ever going to be. So,
But that being said, we're looking at an R2, which would be 3 per acre or 15,000 square foot lots.
15,000 square foot lots, 2.5 per acre.
That's 17,000, whatever. So I mean, we're looking at different options to give a little more dense option versus having to use a PUD and kind of using it inappropriately.
Well, I think you should give options on 75 acres is a lot of land. I mean, you might need to have options.
R2 and R3 is exactly where those are headed.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
R2 would be roughly 2.5 or 3 per acre, and then R3 would be multifamily.
Smaller lots.
Yeah.
Different requirements of what you got to have. You wouldn't have to have all of the amenities that a PUD requires. And then you also are looking at, and I don't want to get all in that because it's so complicated, the cluster. Jim loves the cluster option, which works real good in the R2 and the R3. So that's all coming together too. But right now we're just sitting out there dangling on the PUD thing at 5 acres, where there's no way 5 acres could ever be what a PUD was intended. Like I said, Tennessee Nationals,
Tellico Village,
Rarity Point, or whatever it is, Wind River now, Avalon, that's what you're saying. When the concept was first started, that's what they were for. They were never meant to have got shrunk down to a 5 acre piece of ground.
Any questions for Jim? I'm done.
Anything you want to add to the August 3rd meeting?
That?
No?
Yes,
that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Go home, Jim. 75.
75, but we're also working on an A2, which would be 3 per acre, 2.5 per acre, somewhere in there.
Okay. Put it together. We'll put it on the August 3rd meeting.
That way you don't have to meet all those
Okay.
stupid PUD requirements.
All right, next up, Buddy Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one board and committee that I want to is our Ethics Committee. I would like to, one of our members of the Ethics Committee passed, Ms. Betty Brown, so I'd like to offer her up to her replacement to be Sergeant Scott Newman. Under the bylaws set forth, that does need to be a member of a board or commission of this county. We have 3 commissioners on it, and then our constitutional officer on that committee is Eddie Simpson.
What was Betty Brown, a board member of the Election Commission?
Election Commission.
Is that what she qualified at?
And then I do not see the others that I had that were there. They're not in here, so I think everything's stable unless...
I've got a planning commission member I'm going to recommend that while.
Okay, good. We'll let that in mind as well whenever I get a 5th district recommendation.
Okay. You want to add them now, Scott Newman, or wait until August 3rd?
Well, that's who I intend to
It'll be on
have
August
on
3rd.
my August 3rd.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and tell you, I can take that one off my list right now. My recommendation is going to be a fellow named Keith Buckles. Keith Buckles.
Jeremy's dad?
Yes, Jeremy's dad. He's, I think he'll make a good addition to the planning commission, very conservative, very willing to learn and be involved. And so I've talked to him over the last month or so about it. And he said, yes, he'd be willing to do it. So that's going to be my recommendation for that.
Put those 2 on for August 3rd and it's done.
Sure.
Okay, next up,
Jail.
the Chief Deputy, Jimmy Davis. And come to the podium and tell us why in the News Herald we had to find out the building's falling down.
It's not falling down.
Now, hang on,
It's not
Mr. Chairman. If I can indulge everybody, I would like to start from one different angle here and get some information in my face before we start hearing from any of the other people. And I'm going to look at Tracy Blair.
I'm going to look back.
I can't tell.
Ugly sight. Ugly sight.
And I'm going to ask her to tell us about the finances. In a very short form, we started out at like $7.5 million. We had contingency money built in. What we spent, not on what, but how much we spent and how much we've got left to finish up the rest of the project.
Okay, starting out at 17 million.
17.
Started, once we issued bonds and we paid the cost of issuance and we got premiums, we got which were credits back, we had about $17.8 million that was deposited to the construction account. Now, today, we have about $560,000 available. Keep in mind that $17.8 million, that included, of course, the $600,000 contingency. Out of the contingency funds, We have $126,326 available.
Say that number again, please.
126,326. $126,326. That is part of the $560,000. The reason that, let me back up, which means that we've spent about $470,000 on the contingency. That's all on the change orders that have come in on the contract. But one of the things that happened with this that's a good thing for us is the investment income. Whenever we issue debt, the investment income can only go one of two places, unless it's specified in the resolution. It was not specified in this resolution that was adopted, but it either goes to retire the debt or it goes back to the construction account. Since it was not specified in the resolution, I checked with audit, it has gone back to the construction account. So since 2017, when this first started, we've actually earned $377,000 in investment income. So that's the reason that there's $500,000 left, considering that we've spent $470,000 of the contingency, if that makes sense. So the big picture, there's $560,000 available, unencumbered, no purchase orders, no contracts on that.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay. That answer your question, Commissioner Shaver?
It does. I just think this is a good place to start and work our way up to the rest of it, because part of my questions and concern are going to be our big fear going in was what we were going to hit in dirt. Nobody knew for sure. You couldn't tell. So the contingency, we were afraid you might have to go to that. Maybe all of it, maybe more than that would it take to fix the dirt. Obviously, that wasn't our problem, because after we were a long way on, we still had, Ms. Blair, if I'm not mistaken, well into the project, we had spent very little of the contingency.
Yes.
So as this conversation continues in a little while with the other particulars, my big question is, I want to know where the contingency money went, what was missed, how it was missed, why it was missed, and who missed it. That cost us $470,000. So as far as Tracy's part, she's given me everything I need right now. So you take it from here, however you want to lead it from here.
Jimmy, tell us about the article that Jeremy wrote. You would think it was falling down.
Jeremy made it up.
Don't lose night. First, I'd like to say this is, in my opinion, no way pointing fingers. I think a lot of it's misunderstanding. I, myself, and Jake, I know have had a good working relationship with MBI and Ralph. I just think there's just expectations I thought I had that maybe it'd be my ignorance, because I don't build jails for a living by any means. Ms. Husky has explained a lot of things to me on how usually the system works. She's been a very important role in this process, I think very helpful to the Sheriff's Office during all this. Jeremy's article was asked because we keep getting asked, why isn't it jealous, why haven't we moved, why haven't we moved? The simple answer is it's not there yet. But when you look at emails that are back and forth from either MBI, Rouse, Ms. Husky, or myself, it's like, I need a date to move in. Some of the construction things that we've had problems with, things that I would think would be expected. Certain things would be expected that you would have in a jail. But like I said, I don't see all the blueprints. I don't see all the plans. Apparently there's volumes of specs. MBI creates the specs to build the jail. Rouse builds the jail as the specs tell them to build the jail. Fair? Fair enough. There's a few things that we saw that were, I don't know if they were mistakes, when I get caught with them and ask why we're spending some of the contingency money, which is taxpayer money, which is not included in the $17+ million, I got a little bit upset. I don't know if it was spec'd out like that, if the specs if the specs were wrong or missed it, whether it's done to lower the cost of the project, I don't know. I can give you some examples if you would like.
Please.
Okay. Some of the examples was when we first did a few of our walkthroughs, the sheriff actually noticed some discoloring of the block in the sally port, had a wipe or a film over it, and apparently it was leaking. Come to find out that the block was waterproof, and I'm just going on what I was told. I may be incorrect, so correct me if I'm wrong. The block was waterproof, but the mortar was not waterproof.
kind of defeats the purpose. So get Mr. Brown, the maintenance director, involved. We look at it. It's going to be around $11,000 charge to buy the sealer and to have it sealed. I think he and the construction manager, Joe, worked it out where it lowered the cost. But I was like, why are we spending contingency taxpayer money to fix a brand new building that's leaking?
Are you saying that they told you only the blocks were waterproof? They came waterproof?
And the mortar was not. Is that correct?
I grew up the son of a mason and have laid many blocks. I know the industry has changed, but I've never heard of laying a pre-waterproofed block. That's done after everything's done. You waterproof the block after they're laid. That includes the mortar and the block.
I'm just going on what I was. I don't build. I don't have any idea.
Did they give you a bag with 3 magic beans in it?
No.
Drywall would be as efficient, wouldn't it?
I'm just going on things. I'm just going on some of the issues that have come up while I've been talking.
I think you're going right on.
You know, on the front of the building, there is a entry point where our bonding company and/or where we do our release into the secondary parking lot down close to Rescue Squad. There's an awning there. There's an entryway in and out of the building, and there's a camera there. Well, on the back side, straight on the opposite corner, is another entry and exit with an awning, and there was not a camera designed to be put on that door. So I'm thinking, I was told, I think it was like $6,000 or something like that to put a camera on that back door. And I'm like, why would, if you put a camera on the front, why wouldn't you put one on the back? That's just questions that I've been having. One of the biggest was, we took a tour of Monroe County Jail, went down, looked at their jail. Of course, their jail was pretty much complete at that time. I saw a lot of things that I thought should be in our jail that was present in Monroe County, but was not present in ours, such as the prisoner pass-through and all the major pod doors. If many of y'all have been in there where the control room is, you have all the different pods in the mail section. The main doors do not have a food pass-through. All of the cell doors do, and the security cell has a pass-through. So to feed the 64 inmate males in minimum security, I have to open the door and feed them all. There's no pass-through, which is a safety concern. It would be very labor intensive if we had our move it to our maximum security, where the risk of assault, your bad boys, so to speak, would be, your maximum security inmates would be, you would either have to lock them in their individual cell and an officer run the food up to each individual cell and give it to their pass-through in their cell, or have them all out in their day room and you have that pass-through in the door, you could feed them there. It'd be a lot less
So how many cells does that affect?
I think it was...
How many pod? It's pod doors, right? How many pod doors?
That didn't get fixed yet, right?
It has been fixed.
It has been fixed. Okay, it has been fixed.
Cell door, too.
Yeah,
Cell door has it. Pod door
it's
is
the pod door went into the pod.
Do you have a cost on that one?
Jimmy, was it not in the specs when they were?
Apparently not.
Yeah, that big one.
$27,656 and 11 doors. They were able, Joe helped us out, they were able to move a couple of doors where it was in a recreation room, but we moved it over to a pod door.
You had to take that out of your contingency money?
Sorry?
You had to take that $27,000 out of your contingency money?
I think it was paid out of contingency.
Well, the contingency money was all that's left, essentially. So whatever comes on the change order.
All the change orders are paid out of the
Going to be out of the contingency.
So these are all change orders, is what he's basically saying.
Yeah. And some of the things are, I would say, to be fair about it, I think some of our requests are facility specific, that may be exactly specific to our facility, maybe not to others, with all the money that's come out. Some things I had something to do with, some things I did not.
But I mean, I don't think having a pass-through door, I mean, that should have been thought of by a construction engineer or whoever did this project. I mean, you're asking the Senate
I'm
government.
guilty of assuming a lot. Like I said, I don't build jails. I don't know. I mean, it's no discredit to these gentlemen behind me. I think they're fantastic, but I just think those things should have been in there.
And I agree. That's what I'm saying. You're not a builder. We've got to proceed. And that's what their job is.
Well, going to have them at the podium in a minute.
So what's the next thing on your list, Jim?
Well, that or two, the major, we had a leak. Actually, we were doing a walkthrough. Miss Husky was with us, and she actually noticed a closet in the very back next to, those of you who've been back there in the female portion of the building, at the end of the hall where the housing is on one and rec room is on the other, there was a back closet, and we had already predetermined that was going to be a storage room for paper. There was a crack in the floor and water coming up through the crack. So she advised Mr. Brown, and he and Joe worked out a deal of how to fix it. I'm assuming it's fixed now. I haven't been over there the last few days.
Did it get fixed? Anybody know?
Yeah.
Did that cost us money?
Did that cost us money?
Well, he said Mr. Brown, so you're assuming that Brian Brown fixed it. It cost
No,
us
Joe worked hard. I mean, there was a way where they were putting sealer over the top. Of course, I don't know what's going to come back in the future. I don't know.
Where was the water coming from?
Crack. I don't know. I have no idea.
That'd be a pretty good body of water to come through.
And I think in the when the article came out, we had a plumbing issue that Joe and everybody fixed immediately. Is where the roof was where I think the article was like the floor's leaking, the roof's leaking. That was actually a plumbing issue where they had a plumber in there and he didn't fix something back and it leaked and messed up the tiles in the camera, which has already been fixed.
Jimmy, once the jail is fixed and you are able to occupy, how long is or what kind of warranty do we have on the roof?
The roof wasn't leaking, it was piping in between the roof and the ceiling. And a plumber, it was just a plumbing issue and they fixed that and replaced it.
Are you fixing to take us into missing cable, missing wires, something like that? Was there not some major issue about it? What I'm trying to say, what kind of wire was it?
Internet
or?
Yeah. Well, of course, like I said, I don't build the buildings. I didn't see the specs or anything like that. I think we didn't realize how much work that we were going to be responsible for. Kind of caught us off guard, and
I think that would catch us all off guard.
I have an IT guy. He doubles as a narcotics investigator, and he has worked his tail off for several months trying to get internet, moving our internet system over because this year we went to an internet phone-based system and went with an internet records management system. So if our internet goes out, none of our phones work, none of our records management, which is booking in inmates, releasing inmates, entering reports, none of that is working. So internet is very important to the new facility. It's all running into that facility and being shot over Wi-Fi into our current building to run all of our office computers over there.
So wasn't there a large miss of some fiber optic or something that was very expensive to come in after the factory put in?
I don't know about the fiber. I didn't have anything to do it. I was just doing on the installation on the inside where we had a Wi-Fi unit or a server or whatever that was put in that was Spectrum, which took a long time. Of course, you got to remember in the midst of all this, COVID hit. Sure. So I'm sure a lot of their employees or laborers electricians weren't able to come and go as they please. So that was obviously an issue that they had to deal with to where we put in our big server for our internet. They finally got in. Spectrum doesn't care if you're a single family home or a big, large building like ours, you get in line and wait.
That's right.
Once it was put in, the electrical outlet was put on the opposite wall, so we had to stretch the cord across. There's trouble getting the electrician there. I believe because of probably COVID, it just took a long time to get that program. Because once we programmed it, put all of our firewall and all of our information to it, as soon as you unplug it, when they fix the outlet, it would lose all that and you'd have to redo it. We've used another company, I think, I can't remember the company's name, that's helped us do a lot of install on Wi-Fi. And
Technical Solution.
That sounds right. Yeah. So they've helped out quite a bit, tried to get all this situated. Of course, it was just something that I was just ignorant to that we would be responsible for.
Was that something that we were supposed to be responsible for?
Apparently so.
When
I can't imagine we're responsible for anything.
When we endeavored on this, we hired an architecture firm and then in turn hired a builder that's supposed to have, both of them have experience in building jails. Is that not right? Have built more than one jail?
Was it just installing like one wire to the server and router, or was it becoming like
We had several hands in it. One company brought the internet cable from outside into our data room inside the jail. One company ran the cable from the data room out to the jail, and then they left it to us to connect it. And that was...
I think when we sat down and had a discussion, and you all were discussing, we even mentioned that, and I think Susan Husky helped us with that too, and mentioned we need to make sure that we have, all the correct phone system running, the internet running, all those things running. Am I correct, Susan?
At least, it was not included in Rouse's contract. Those costs were not included in Rouse's contract. Those were additional costs outside of their contract that provision was made for in bond money, is that what you call it, Tracy, to cover those costs. So it went as those electrical internet connections and all that was not included in the construction contract.
Is that a normal thing?
How's that possible?
That's typical.
But we knew that ahead of time going into it, we had money set aside for it.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did. Because I remember we had talked about that.
Yes, we did.
But that's what I said, a lot of the things I just may not have been privy to, I was just astonished sometimes, like, we have to do that too, we have to do that. A lot of this, like I said, it's facility specific. Some things are up for argument, I guess, or discussion.
What's your present completion date?
We've worked with Joe a lot the last few weeks on trying to get it completely finished. One thing I guess I was involved in was the way the floors look. But they said that was the color that was chosen. I don't know. It doesn't look like a finished floor to me. But I think Joe actually went over there himself and did some work on his own to try to help us out in that aspect of it. We have 2 shower lights that we've asked to be fixed. I talked to Joe about them last week, and they have, he said they had security plates on them. So until we wanted to use lights from our construction area to move them over to put them in the new, we checked, and only one of them actually has a plate on it, and one of them does not. No lights in the 64-man cell. None of the lights work in the shower area. So we're waiting on that. A lot of the things that we're waiting on right now, the main things we're waiting on is one of the vendors that we're using for our touch screens and our camera system. Captain Keenan went over there a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago probably now, just doing his punch list of checking through and seeing what still needed to be done. He was trying to turn on the light because he found a closet that didn't have a light in it. So he's trying to find on the touch screen where to turn it on, so he's hitting buttons, and he's watching out the corner of his eye's peripheral. He sees lights going on and off in the opposite. Now, that is not their concern. That's another vendor that we have that's been working on it. Of course, it took them a while because they had to get the internet in before they could sign in off-site and start trying to reprogram and fix some of that thing.
Turn the traffic light off out there.
So that is some of the things that just still aren't done yet. We're still working on it.
Any idea when it'll be done?
Hopefully soon.
Come on, man, it's supposed to be done in January. What's Sunday?
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping within a couple of weeks. I hope.
I mean, he's at the mercy of vendors.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I can't put anybody in that 64-man pod until those lights are fixed or capped or something. I just can't.
And who's responsible for capping those lights?
I would assume construction. And we've talked about it, and Joe's been trying to work on it, but
well, we've got a letter, an email that said that the CO was issued in March. With a CO in March and lights not working, there's a disconnect somewhere. You can't get a CO if you've got no shower lights.
Right.
So, how
does that work?
Yeah. CO generally would mean everything is working and ready to go.
Yeah, we had Keenan went over there. We had a table. Maybe just if you'll explain some of this.
Sure. Well, we've got a plumbing issue in laundry. They delivered a sink that...
Is this outstanding right now as we speak?
Yes.
Okay. So
I took these pictures today.
What was it?
A sink in laundry that was delivered, and he said that he would install it, the delivery guy. if it was plumbed, and it wasn't plumbed the way he made it.
All right. Who is on what for that? Is that construction here, or is that us?
I don't know.
Who's in charge of the plumbing? Who put the plumbing in?
Construction.
Okay.
Then we have, of course, the lights and showers. The kitchen, we have just an open foam box on the wall that needs, number one, it needs wires run through it, and then it needs to be covered.
Probably a vendor.
Right.
That's probably a vendor guy.
Probably. And then we have a couple issues in our female control room with some window tinning and a loose handrail on the stairs. Construction. Now, I don't know who's responsible for tinning. Joe and I were over there with them when they started, but they've not finished.
I think in the original specs, they didn't deem that those windows needed to be tinted. If you're in the mail pod and you're walking around the control tower, you can see into the pod, but the pod cannot see out into the hallway. I think originally under design, since that those windows were not open to a hallway, they did not need to be tinted. So that's why the mail pod is, because they have a hallway right outside those huge windows. The issue was shown to us, and we were going to do a walkthrough, those weren't tinted, and there's the upper mezzanine walkway where you can stand on that mezzanine walkway inside the pod and look straight down into the control room. And also the inmates can look up and see the big giant screen TV that shows your cameras, which is a security issue. And I think they also felt that after looking at it, they probably need to be tinted as well. So we started working with a local vendor on how to get tint. We've been probably in there 3 or 4 times trying to get them to tint it to where it's sufficient. It hasn't had I haven't had a whole lot of luck with getting that tinted to our satisfaction, because you can still see through the tint because it's a well-lit area, and still see the cameras that the control room officer is watching. So if you have an assault risk or a tip, just to give you an example of an assault that may happen in this pod or this area, we're going to watch it and watch for that action that comes, because it's a security issue.
I would say the tinting then is vendor.
I would say vendor, but we've tried to, and I guess that was a cost that would come back on us. I felt it should have been done up front, but that's just my opinion.
Who would consider the construction manager over the project?
Ralph.
I mean, shouldn't Ralph? These are police officers. They're not construction folks. Shouldn't Ralph be overseeing every single one of these issues?
We're fixing that.
Yeah, we've had discussions with them, and we like I said, we've worked well with them trying to get these things done. They did tint. We have a walk-in or a small person sally port where someone comes into the pod. They're placed in that secure pod before they are let into the main housing area. That was not tinted. It has been tinted, and it looks like it's been tinted properly with the mirror tint where you cannot see into that area.
Is that the one that's got the flush and floor drain?
No.
Oh, that was cool.
No, that's over by the side.
That'd be your drum tank.
No, you got it. Anyway, so we're waiting on some tint into the housing unit in the female pod, trying to get that finished.
What I'm looking at right now, just the minimal things you called, and Susan Husky probably lends your ear to this. Things you called off and you just gave some roundabout numbers. We're talking about $45,000 or so spent out of contingency. We've spent $470,000. So I'm going to assume that Susan is going to be able to tell us at some point a whole lot more of money that's been spent on vendors that was not included in the original contract, is what my assumption would be. And a vendor, most of the vendors shouldn't come in as a change order, I wouldn't think. A change order should have been something changed from the original construction specs. Like Kelly said, we knew there were things we were going to be doing on our own. So that was a known commodity going into it. But a change order and hiring a vendor to do a job is 2 different things. So I'm real interested on where the contingency money has gone, specifically $470,000, well, $435, 25, now that you've come up with 45. So that's going to be an interesting question for me. For MBI, well, I guess we'll finish with you before we start on.
Can we go over this? Okay. I can give you a brief rundown.
All right.
400,000.
Are these change orders, these vendors?
These are change orders that we have paid for us. 522 of 18, slope fill at rear exiting building, $9,936. 726 of 18, temporary fence enclosure at the rear of exterior, $3,007. 720 of 18, increased sanitary pump motor horsepower, $1,148. 920 of 18, revised electrical changes, $49,678. 612 of 19, plumbing vent change, $7,672. 1115 of 19, miscellaneous directed revisions, $17,159. 11020, I'm assuming renovate 13, and miscellaneous changes, $20,900. Renovate, it's REV, I'm not sure what that stands for. 11, and other earthwork grading revisions, $7,879. Fire alarm smoke detectors, $21,396.
Is that because they forgot to put them in the original specs, or what are we talking about there?
I don't know, but if I had to guess, I'd say the fire marshal came in and said that it needed to add, or I don't know. Best my answer is I don't know. Power to Johnson control panel, $10,797.
What does that mean? Power to Johnson control
Johnson control panels, I guess that's our vendor that runs our heat and air.
Isn't that for the standby generator?
I'm not sure.
Susan, do you know what that is?
What was the dollar amount?
Brian handled that.
$10,797. And that was all on 110 of 20. 226 of 20. Add hail guards to 16 rooftop mechanical units. $20,352.
The hail guards?
Hail guards,
Who tells them
H-A-I-L.
that they need to put the hail guards on there, sir?
Sir?
Who tells them they need to put the hail guards on?
No idea.
I think that'll be a question for our next round.
They were probably requested.
We got hail here in Tennessee before.
Question for the next round.
No idea. Kitchen storage renovation at exiting building, 32120 is $96,935. Kitchen storage renovation
We'll be
at
coming back
exiting
talking about
building.
that.
Add food pass-throughs to 7 day room doors, $27,656.
That was to move the doors, correct?
That was to cut holes.
Add the pass-through to the doors. To 7 doors, $27,656. And that I requested that for sure. Total of $414,832. Oh, I missed one. There's one I missed. New parking lot and sidewalk, $84,198.
That's something you guys requested?
I think we knew on the front end, we didn't allow for nothing but gravel.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, what was the cost on that?
$84,189.21. Yeah, there's an exterior parking lot that when people are released or visit or whatever, it's outside the secure area, which wasn't needed. We needed extra parking because
It's like a little small parking lot.
I assume that's what that would be, because there's a large sidewalk that walks down to how you can actually enter and exit the building in the unsecured area. It's on the downslope going towards the fire hall. Okay, I don't know. I know I asked for the changes in the pass-through because I thought that was a security and officer safety risk.
Sure. I think we always know there's going to be things as we go along.
And I think some things that they may have missed, I don't know, or that Mr. Brown may have requested, or that they worked on to come to an agreement on fixing them. I have no idea.
Brian was supposed to be here tonight, but I believe he's what, in sick bay?
Mm-hmm. You can hardly understand him on the phone.
What?
What?
Yes.
I think you've been very, very informative for this section of it, Jimmy.
Well, I mean, again, I think these could have been very easy to work with. It's just a few things that like I said, maybe ignorance on my part, I thought would be automatics. But
Are the leaks and the stuff that was in the paper all fixed?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to be clear. For my part, I can't speak for anybody else. I'm not here trying to pit anybody against anybody, point fingers or anything. We don't know nothing. This is how it should be. We've stayed out of it. We've hired professionals from the top to the bottom. We've got our people working on it. We've got maintenance working on it. We see an article that says, we don't know that. I hear numbers from Tracy that I'm thinking, whoa, where did all that money go? So all we really wanted was everybody here at one time so we can understand. I don't know if there's anything wrong with any of this, but I just need to understand. For my part, it's all I'm looking for.
Well, like you, I get the calls of when we're going to open, when we're going to open. I don't have a date till a few things are fixed. And like I said, the main stumbling block now would be a vendor trying to get that done. Of course, that could have been delayed by getting the internet service in. You know, things like that.
How many prisoners do we have right now?
108.
108?
So we got enough to do a walkthrough then and see if it works.
We got staff. I'm ready.
We got staff.
I'm ready.
My question is, so when we move them all to the new jail, we have to renovate the old jail. How much is that going to cost?
That's figured in the total. That's just phase 2.
That was supposed to be.
And they're ready to move in, but it's just I can't move inmates in there now.
How much money do we have left?
We've got $500-something thousand.
That's on the contingency money. The other project was.
There is no other money left. All the money's gone.
Wasn't that part of the original bill? Bid?
I would think so.
He's shaking his head.
I'm seeing all the heads back there moving, so they're going to enlighten us on that one in a minute. Apparently, the rest of the work we're going to do is not going to cost us anything, is what I'm hoping to hear.
Well, he's shaking his head no.
There will be no change orders, there'll be no uh-ohs, there'll be no mistakes. The next part will be just sing, zang, zoom.
Okay.
What world do you live in?
A happy place.
5th district.
5th district.
So
Very
Susan or Betty, when we, I date myself, I go back some years ago that when we used to do projects like this, we had what was called a clerk of the work.
Really glad so.
And, but in this instance, was there any one person that was responsible for?
Sound like Jimmy Davis was the clerk of the work.
No. I just would, it was a combined effort.
MBI would be what I would consider the modern day version of clerk of the work.
But they just grew it.
Brian and I served as the clerk of the works, and we worked very hard on this project.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Jimmy and Jake?
I'm ready for the next one.
We'll stay around.
Okay, who wants to come up next? Jay? Anything you want to add to it? Because I'll tell you what, personally, for everybody in the room, I get the News Herald on Wednesday, and I drink my coffee and read it. It was a shock to read that article. That's my humble opinion.
Way to go, Jeremy.
I'll address the article
Thanks,
first.
Jeremy. You wrote my coffee that morning.
I'll address the article, and then I'll start trying to go backwards from what I heard. I may not remember them all, so ask questions.
We got it rolled down.
Okay. First is the leak from the floor. That's an existing foundation that's exposed where the building butted up. There was a leak there. And try to determine was there a way to get under the existing building to find where the water was coming from, or obviously you're not going to mine underneath the existing building to get there. Tried a couple different things. We finally did a surface repair on it, and that's probably been a month and a half ago. And our understanding is it's not leaked since that point. So they did a surface repair.
So for the new building, the old building.
It comes together. There's part of the foundation because of the way that building steps that was exposed. So it was a crack in the existing foundation. Before, the water probably was coming from under the building and right back out under the soil.
Well, I was really concerned when it says coming through the concrete. I thought, what if we build on top of it?
Did it get fixed, sir?
Yes, sir.
And the most water, now I may not see it the worst, but the most water I ever saw back there would probably been a couple of glasses full. I mean, it wasn't like it was just pouring through.
Okay.
Well, how much do you think you had? Maybe got that big.
The worst case scenario.
Was it rainwater?
It was rainwater. When it rained extremely
Okay, so no
hard.
subsurface problems, nothing
No,
like that?
that's water that's coming down outside the existing building, getting under the existing foundation, and the existing foundation is exposed in there.
And would that be considered a change order? That's a correction?
No, it's a repair.
I think they just repaired it.
Okay.
They just repaired it. Okay.
All right.
All right. I think it's already been addressed pretty well, the one from above. That was just a plumbing joint that probably wasn't soldered quite correctly, and it started leaking, and that can happen in any job, any place, any time. That's not unusual. They fixed it, dried it up, it's done. The other one is a little bit more complicated. That is at the vehicle sally port. Yes, I think you were bringing up about the block earlier. There is block you can get now that has admixture in it that's supposed to slow down the penetration of water. Okay, at that location, it's one wipe the block. All the rest of the building has a airspace in brick, or airspace in metal, or airspace in the block, and the water gets in the airspace, goes down and weeps out. Here, obviously, it can't. It's just one wipe or one width of block.
Is it just a exposed wall or whatever, or is it backed up to with dirt, or?
It's just an exposed wall. It's basically where you drive into the carport there, the garage with vehicles, and the big doors open up. When it rained hard, we start seeing effervescence. You know what that is. That's just the white stuff where the solids are coming out because water was getting into it. We started investigating what was going on. Well, the block says should waterproof mortar. The mortar specification didn't say that. So when they did it, they didn't pick up on the waterproof mortar.
But what if the block hadn't been waterproof?
It would have come through it anyways. And you would have had to seal it on the outside, which is what was done at no cost to the county.
Okay, so that's fixed.
That's fixed. Am I right about that, Al?
We did it. We had turned a change order in, requested because it wasn't included in the original documents. It became a little contentious. Therefore, we negotiated with our masonry contractor and sealed the sally port at no cost.
So it's fixed?
Is the block exposed, or is it veneered with brick?
It's just
It's all exposed block.
It's one layer of block. It's one layer of block.
Okay, well I just.
But it's a finished, it's not just a plain old cinder block surface on the front, is it?
On the outside, some of them are smooth and some of them are the rough base.
Right.
Inside, it's all smooth.
Right.
It's a colored block.
Will that be something we have to repeat and do on a regular basis?
Probably about 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Now,
it's just on the sally port end.
It's only on the sally port outside walls. Now, realistically, when weather's bad and it's raining, those doors are going up and down and cars are coming in and out of there. Guess what? It's going to be wetted.
Well, I'd hate to have something stained or something there while we're raining.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't want, I'd hate for it not to be
there was no pouring. There's going to be.
I'm going to lose sleep on that.
There's going to be more water on the floor from the cars coming in, the rain coming through the doors. This was just water that's getting in the block and the effervescence is coming out the backside. You're seeing the wall.
And I think the concern is here, in fact, 17 million, we don't want to start out with stained walls.
Right.
If it stains later on, well, things happen. But right now, we want everything to be just right when we go in there.
So
you said the block or treat, how are they waterproof?
There's admixture that's added to the block that helps it to resist water infiltration. The same thing can be added to mortar to help
Is it
resist.
supposed to be like 100,
Is it 100%? No.
It just intrigues me.
It's not water resistance or water, it's a water repellent basically.
Okay.
It helps reduce the amount.
So the bottom line is, Jay, The leaks that Jeremy wrote about in the News Herald have been fixed.
They've been fixed. Now, I know the list that the Chief Deputy was reading down there. Behind that list for how the discretionary money has been spent, there's probably that much backup. And I think you and also Mr. Brown probably have copies of every one of those backups, and I can get everyone. So there's as much data as you want, and every one of those were investigated, beaten, squashed, everything that could be done. There was multiple things that happened. Existing conditions were some of the things, okay? Existing things that happened on the site. Some of them were things that just weren't in the documents. That happens sometimes. And I'll go back to the issue about the pass-throughs here in a minute. Some of them were just things you get into construction and things don't work out always the way you think they're going to, matching up. So, and some of the things were things that were asked by the Sheriff's Department, and some of them were things that Brian Brown says, hey, I would really like to add that because in the long run, I think it'll save me money, like the hail guards on the HVAC units. Do they come naturally that way in this area? No, they typically do not come that. That's an add-on. He thought for $3,000 a unit, it was worth doing it because there's like 21 units up there. I mean, that's just more.
It was about $20,000.
Yeah, about $20,000. It was like about $1,500 a unit, I guess. There's about 15, 16 units up there. So
Brian requested that.
Brian requested. So there's a little bit of everything. It's reason you almost have to see all that backup. I'm not trying to dance around, but if you really want to know what's going on, you need to see some of that backup. It's not an easy, quick answer. And I'm more willing to sit down and go through every one of those with you.
I personally don't need all the backup. All I need is, I'm already hearing a lot of things I just need to hear. No biggies. That one was, and I don't know if you were planning to do the list, but of course the $96,000 one will be very interesting.
What was the $96,000?
I can't read my writing. I don't know. What was $96,000, Jimmy?
Kitchen into a storage.
Kitchen storage, yeah, kitchen storage.
Oh, okay.
How did that come about? That's a whopper there.
Okay. The kitchen storage, as we were finishing up the project here, seeing what contingency was left, then what... I'm going to be honest with you, seeing what contingency was left, what the Sheriff's Department needed, what they're really hurting on is storage. So the old existing kitchen was just going to be left as it was sitting there with all the equipment, gas lines, and everything else, just as it is. There's nothing happening. It's not part of the original job, partly because we tried to make this thing as cost effective as possible. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But there was nothing to do that. So the question was asked, what does it take to get all the equipment out of there, get the gas piping out, to make it a fifth room overhead door so they can back a vehicle in there and use it as storage? And I don't know what kind of storage.
That was requested by us.
Yeah.
That was requested by the Sheriff's Department and approved by who? Susan?
Me and Brian and I.
Okay, I don't have a problem with it.
So,
I got problems with running out of money for phase 2.
Well,
We don't need any more money for phase 3.
well, the one thing that I've always said, guys, as we go through here, we want to have $100,000 to $125,000 for this phase 2. And the reason is, we don't know when you tear into that old jail walls, you can't see what's in the walls, you can't see what's in the floor, you can't see what's in the ceiling. We may not spend but very little that. But that contingency is sort of your insurance for things you don't know. That's the last part of how the contingency uses things you just don't know.
What did you say? We have $126,000 of contingency left.
I think it's what you said. In my mind, it's around about 125.
Let's call it 120 and save a little there. What do you think?
Yeah.
Let's call it.
So hopefully you don't have to spend that much.
That'd be great.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. So that's the insurance for what's not left there. And I think the number you gave me a minute ago probably included what's in the contract to finish up that phase 2.
Say that again?
That was total.
Yeah, that was a total number. So she already had in her number the fee, their
So nothing else is coming out of what we have left unless there's a contingency problem. It's already paid for over there.
It's in the contract.
It's in the contract.
Phase 2, the completion of the Phase 2, what shows on the construction documents is included in our contract.
So we're not paying for that. They're doing it.
Well, we paid for it.
We have
paid for it.
Yeah, we're not
But
paying.
we've already paid for it, the way I understand it.
Basically that.
He says no.
Round numbers, $16,250,000, which was the cost, included that contingency. When it's done, you should have spent 16 million something, and you're not going to go over that 16.25. That's our goal.
Tracy Blair?
Yes, sir.
If it costs contingency of $126,326 to finish up the next part, then we should have a tad left.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause she made your money make money.
Yes.
Huh?
She made your money make money.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm going for. I guess I'll speak for me, and I know just conversations early on. I think a lot of us have kind of hoped that there might be some contingency left once we got past the dirt. There was so much conversation about we don't know till we hit it. We don't know if we're going to have enough to do this. So we built that contingency in because we thought we may have to bring dirt or anything in here. So I guess for myself, I'm thinking, okay, the dirt worked out great, so everything else is in the contract. So that contingency money ought to be safe, and we'll save a little money in the process. I understand now how we've gotten to where we're at. We've spent it.
Well, because they looked at it to see how much contingency money's left, and then...
And that 96 isn't spent. Now, that's a decision we all want to make.
Sounds like Poplar Springs
Lots of things,
money to be.
money in the county, and we just see how much is left, and just spend that.
Well, that got better when the money run out.
Now, I'm going to get out of my line of work here. I know you've got a certain bond that you've got to build the jail. If you've got money left, can you use it for other things, or does it have
Just
to go to jail?
Just dead.
Dead or jail.
Okay. So I think if you're thinking about using it towards schools or something else, I think you may have to.
No, less debt. No, we know we can't move it around. We can make the debt less.
So right now, between the remaining that's there for the unknown conditions for the Phase 2, what's there to do the storage project, there is approximately $225,000 that have not been spent yet.
Well, don't spend it.
Well, but there's other issues, and I don't know if it's your responsibility or construction, but Chief Davis mentioned lights in the shower not working, phone issues. Is all that stuff paid for? And we're just waiting for it to be done?
What about the light?
You'll address the light issue, but I don't really know about that one. The lights were working when I was doing it.
There were some lights that weren't shown on the drawings in those showers. We recognized the need for them, so we left them in. And then the lights we had left over, we installed, we donated them. We were too short, they ordered them. It comes from a company in Mexico that's closed because of COVID. The fire marshal's fine. Well, it wasn't a fire marshal issue. You can still see, it's not as though there's a room with a door that's dark in there. It's open. Right.
So from Chief Davis, they don't come on at all, correct, Chief?
Well, the breaker's turned off because one of them has a plate and one of them is exposed wire.
I got you.
Okay.
So is that an ad, or is that just something?
It was a donation.
It's just something to be finished. So that's going to be done. There's no additional cost. Just be taken
But
care
what
of.
about all the security plates over lights?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
That's what
They're talking about.
So that's going to be fixed.
So that's all going to be taken care
Is that
of.
what you hear?
And if I remember right, the sewer problem was to help the fire department.
That is part of the ones, and that's the reason I say you've got to see a lot of the backup, because part of that was were they moved? Was the rescue squad moving? Was the rescue squad not moving? And if they'd moved, they wouldn't need the pump, but they didn't move, so they had to get their poop from there back through our system.
And we approved that.
We talked about that, we sure did.
I know all about that. Because they were pumping the tank or whatever they do.
Which, if they left, that was the cheapest way to go, but, they're still there.
They're still there.
They're going to be there a while, too.
Yeah.
They don't look like they're going anywhere soon.
I had a thought while I was in my thinking place just now. Have we paid you all in full? Are you done? Are y'all paid in full?
No, we've still got the phase 2 to finish. We've been waiting for
Is
several
that
months.
included in that 126,326?
You got one man shaking his head back here.
Their cost is already accounted for in architectural fees, POs cut at the beginning of the project.
Yeah,
Money's gone, money's spent, Tracy Blair?
The remaining money is still sitting on a PO once we're invoiced for phase 2.
Yeah, our cost is not in with Rouse's. Our cost is not in the discretionary fund. It is a separate line item.
It's not, whatever's left's not coming out of this last little bit we got. Okay, in my book, that means you're paid in full.
Right, there is a place we're being paid in full.
Sitting on a PO waiting to be filled, right?
All right, have we got all the questions answered for the
I
jail?
just want to know how that was missing the pass-through slot on the doors.
Okay, let me talk about the pass-through. Let me talk about the communications, because I've heard several things here. Some of them matched what was going on, some weren't. In the design for the jail, all the security cameras, door locking systems, intercom systems, everything that's part of the security system is part of the design that's being provided, and it's under Rouse's, and it was provided by Esitec. And it's designed by a company I work with called Loudon. The low voltage systems for your computers and your telephone systems, that is typically provided by the owner. I don't care if it's an office building or if it's a jail. Monroe County, they had their own people actually even pulling the wires on that and making the final connection. I'm trying to remember, did you all pull the wires or just the pull strings for the low voltage telephone system?
No, we didn't. No, we roughed in pull string.
You just put the pull string. That is typical. That is the typical. Otherwise, you're paying them for the wire and installing the wire. And that was unknown on the front end. That I don't know if y'all work with Charter or whoever you work with, but your vendor was going to take care of that.
That's at the beginning of the contract when you all were in negotiations with MBI. I kept saying, I need money for phones. All of your IT infrastructure, your phones are not included in these contracts, and so the owner's responsible for phones, IT equipment, all of that stuff is not part of their contract, and that's typical of today's work. 30 years ago, a lot of that stuff would be included, but over time, and you might, Jay, comment on this as well, over time, things have been, there's been a stopping point. Used to, sometimes we would do a contract and it included all furniture in the school. Those days are over. They give you design for the building, and then you're left purchasing ends up working with furniture vendors to determine how many desks can fit in a classroom and how many chairs do we need and how many desks do we need. Those days of that being provided by an architect are pretty much over in order to trim costs from your project. So when you say 15 mil, it trims off a lot of those items and they become an owner responsibility. But that's very, very typical. I was not caught off guard by any of this. These are all things that I expected in this project.
I think what you and Brian were caught off guard was COVID and these vendors not being able to perform. I shouldn't say it that way, but it took a long time to get them in there and do what they needed to do.
Yes, we have needs in pulling cables and hiring vendors.
I remember that, I'm sorry. I remember that conversation. So I guess my question is, do we have that stuff covered?
Yes.
So that we don't have police officers.
We had money built in addition to the 15 mil, we had money built into bond money to cover phones, IT equipment, inmate storage was another one that was $59,000. Those were all things that was not included, but we knew those expenses were coming, and so they were money provided for in the bond money to cover these expenses.
And you chose to purchase some of those to save it.
Yes, we actually saved $40,000 by purchasing our own laundry and kitchen equipment.
I remember that.
So that's where probably the sink in the laundry, the guy delivered it says, oh, I can't hook this up just the way it's sitting here. Well, that's the interface between somebody doing the plumbing and him getting there with the sink. That's what's going to happen when you buy your own. But the conduits and the back boxes, and they put a string through there for the pull it was there for that vendor to do the work. Now, Jimmy doesn't need to offend him, but I will here just a little bit. One of the difficult things was all the way from our design on is they do not have anybody that's basically on staff or anyone with the county that's just handling low voltage type designs like they did at Monroe County. And so we actually, when we were trying to put conduits design and how things were going to go, we were working with a guy at LCUD who used to work with the sheriff's department because he knew the systems the best. So that's just a weakness, a difficulty that you've overcome now, but it was a difficulty. Pie hose.
Pie hose, the door.
The doors. Okay, Monroe County, those are in the doors at the cell blocks. Those were not put in the doors at the cell blocks to pass food through. In Monroe County, the sheriff asked for those, or the chief deputy asked for those, to actually be able to drop a smoke bomb through there, because I'm told you don't say tear gas anymore. And they actually tested that and did things with the smoke vac system to see how fast it cleared out there. You don't want it to clear too fast, but you do want it to clear out. So that's what those were in. Now, do we put those in there? No, we do not, because typically if it's a high security, you have them all in their cell and you roll the food in there. And I know that's a problem for Jimmy. That means somebody's carrying the food each one, but typically they do not hand every meal through the door. Now, can that be done, and that's how this operation is going to be done? Sure enough. So if that's how they want to do it, they've been added, but that just wasn't anticipated on the front end. It's a matter of how you want to handle the food. Most of them do not pass it through. As you can imagine, if you got 64 people in a dorm area there, you're passing a lot of meals through there. I got a feeling at least one or two going to get dropped on the floor, and it's going to be a mess. It's easier just rolling in. So that's a miss. That's one of those communications, one of those things. But we didn't know your expectation, and you didn't know what was coming. So, and that's what the discretionary fund is sort of there for. It's for the things that we may not know. What other ones come up there that would you like to talk about more for you?
I have one, I think, for Susan. Are the vendors covered now? Have we paid them? Has the money, are they on POs? Is all that done?
I don't know what's lacking, because I'm dependent upon Jimmy or Chief Davis to notify me of any other additional IT infrastructure, equipment. We bought some chairs. We've got various miscellaneous items that we've purchased for the kitchen. You've got mixers and things like that. I think Jimmy, Chief Davis even took some of that out of his own budget. But we're about to wrap things up.
I mean, you usually got mattresses. There's a lot of things that's above and beyond what the contract
we bought $11,000 worth of mattresses. That's not included in the contract, but we bought it out of this money, bond money.
Some of the things we're waiting on now is, I talked to the 2 fire chiefs in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know who's responsible. They haven't been trained on the smoke system of how to evacuate the smoke out of a certain cell. Like if the cell fills up with smoke, they're supposed to be trained. And I know how much trouble we have out of a board this big in our new jail now, and the other one's the size of this door. So they have to be trained. SETech right now is, I would say, would be our main stumbling block on getting things done to be able to move in. And Jake talks with him regularly on trying to fix our punching buttons and other things that are turning on and off in other parts of the jail.
Now, Alan, is that really SETech on the smoke evac system? I thought that was the guy that did the
Smoke evac system is Johnson Control.
Johnson Control and balance guy.
Training was held with all the Primes guys and anybody else that wanted to be in attendance. So if more training needs to be done with somebody, please let us know.
I didn't know anybody, because that's out of my realm, but fire chiefs, we still need to be trained on that system of how to contain smoke to one so it's not going all over the place. That's 2 weeks ago I was told that.
And I didn't know that was out there. I knew training had occurred on the smoke evac system, so we'll bring someone in to show them how to use it again.
Any further questions from the commissioners? If not, Jay, Roush, Jake, Jimmy, thank you for coming to clear it up. We'll send Jeremy back to 6 more months of journalist training.
Yeah, way to go, Jeremy. I'll be honest, it's been very informative to me.
To me, it has.
Again, all I wanted to understand was where we were at, where's the money at, where it's gone. I fully understand that where all the money's gone, and I expect another $126,000 to be gone very shortly, but that's what it's at for.
Well, Jeremy, if your article accomplished this, I appreciate that.
We're picking on you, Jeremy.
No, I'm glad.
I am glad we had it out.
Like I said, this brought us
He
to
wrote
people's
exactly
attention.
what I said.
There you go.
At the time, you know, I was like, why aren't you open? Why aren't you open? You have your certificate. And I'm like, I can't move in, and this is a few things right off the bat that are issues.
I think you look at where we started, this, and of course, Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Duff were the only 2 commissioners here. When it started, what, 2012, 2013?
Yeah.
And what we've done without a tax increase, and what we've done with Roush, and especially MBI has done with $17 million, I think this commission has done a pretty fair job of getting the most bang for the buck. I'm gonna throw something at you quick.
I mean, like I said, I'm not downplaying the job that they did, because we went through with the state to certify on how many prisoners we can have. And I think Joe was there, and the building was built impeccable, where they were within a half inch on these buildings. And of course, if you're off too much, you can't have as many bed space. So the building is built.
There's nothing quite like
It's just a few issues that I thought was going to be handled other ways.
going to work with the sheriff and sitting in front of a TCI board. That's not very fun. I've enjoyed not going.
Absolutely.
Well, I look at it, if you can build a jail that size and stay within budget and not go over budget, you've been successful. There's always going to be hiccups in any construction projects and things that need to be fixed or repaired. It's just like building a house. Nothing is ever perfect right off the bat. But if you came in within budget or under budget, you had a successful project.
I will share one thing real quickly and leave, and this, I know you look here, and it was late March when the state fire marshal gave their approval, and James Jenkins gave the building occupancy. It's been 3 months, and that sounds like a long time. The time that happened on Monroe County, the time they moved in, prisoners in, it was almost 6 months between training and getting ready to move people in there and them feeling comfortable. And right now, there's still things being shook out. There was in Anderson County for the first year it opened up. Guess what? Sometimes the mechanical units just ain't built like they used to be. They got pinholes in the coils and so on, and it takes a while to figure it out, and people are hot, and you got to fix it. So we'll be here, we and Rouse, through making sure it gets shook out and everything works right.
We can know there's going to be some little other things come, hopefully smaller things come up. That's just the way it is.
It is just the way it is. Hopefully it's all small.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, 5-minute break.
Okay, let me just say this to Jake. Our whole goal here is to make sure our guests have a pleasant and enjoyable experience. Give us 10 on the service.
Not you, the prisoner. The prisoner.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me a certificate for a steak on the way home.
Take a 5-minute break. Steve, you're up when you come back. You can tell us about Santa. Okay.
Let's see.
Who we missing, Adam?
Attorney.
Okay, we got Kelly.
Legislation. I don't know, Kelly. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, everybody back?
Yes, sir.
Steve Fields, tell us why we had to hear from Richard Aplin that Sandtech was being sold to Republic.
It's because they are being sold. I provided a letter that the COO from Sandtech provided the Solid Waste Board, and kind of explaining the nature of the acquisition. I mean, the solid waste business is real dynamic, and this is just a piece of it.
Does it concern you at all?
I don't know if I certainly have an interest in how it's going to go. You know, nobody knows how it's going to go exactly. I mean, what they're talking now is that the same Santec personnel are going to be there operating out of Cleveland under the Santec name. They're going to be a wholly owned subsidiary. And my guess is that as long as they hit whatever kind of numbers they're supposed to hit in terms of making money for the parent company, Republic, they're probably going to leave them alone. And if for some reason they're not making their numbers, then they're probably going to get more help. Now, what that means exactly, I don't have a clue.
Steve, I looked at their website, and they're on the, I think their shares are going to like 85.34 today. They've made about $10 billion last year. They have 40 landfills. They're based in Arizona. They compensate their CEO, their COO, and all of the board very appropriately. But the thing that we have to deal with transparency, and I appreciate what you do, thank you, but we get baptized continuously if we don't put things out in the public. And when the letter that we got, and it states that the Department of Justice was going to start basically a review of requests for the sale, and then I don't think that you were notified until the 20th. I don't understand how it works. Is that the federal government? Or how? If it is, then we're in trouble.
So what's your concern?
Why did the Department of Justice start investigating, and you, I believe, were not notified until the 20th of March about the sale of the property? Is that correct?
So the Department of Justice investigates large acquisitions like this just as a matter of investigating the businesses to ensure there's no monopolies going to be created. You know, it's just part of what the Department of Justice does.
I understand, but why weren't you or the solid waste, why did Santec not let you guys know so that it could be filtered down and that we could know what was going on?
I think one thing is that Santec had a discussion with you about it.
Right.
He did not have a discussion with
us.
With the board, no, with the solid waste board about it.
So, but you know, yes, that's true. However, the next meeting that we had, we laid out what was going on to the extent that we were aware of it.
But I believe, you know, the board was informed after it came out in an article.
Right.
And I felt very betrayed by my chairman, who should have at least let the board know that this is taking place, because we had been in the middle of negotiations with Santec and discussing things with Santec, and then come to find out that Santec is sharing this information with Republic, so they know. We didn't know that.
Right.
So
if we had been aware of the negotiations, could we not have started to renegotiate with Republic if we wanted to see a takeover by them, to buy Santec, that could benefit the county better?
I don't know necessarily if you would get I mean, what we're talking about is a hypothetical. I mean, what we're dealing with is that we've had this ongoing negotiations with Santec. Larry and all of his efforts in terms of getting us to the point where we're at now put us in a much more favorable position than where we were previously. You know, the fact that somebody, I guess, the Republic approached Santec last year, beginning this process. I mean, it's just, I understand your frustration by not knowing, but
it's not frustration. It's just that we get really criticized if we're not open to the public on things. And that's all I was asking.
Sure.
We should have been upfront with us from the beginning up till now. And I think that Santec should have had respect for Loudon County Commission and the two cities to do that.
Well, again, setting aside what happened, and just for a moment, I mean, from the time that I was notified of this potential acquisition, and it hasn't concluded yet, so it's still in the process at some level. It's probably going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. The next meeting that we had, the board was made aware. Now, what happened in between is COVID-19.
Right.
And, everything got kind of turned on its head. Yes, I didn't share information with the board. I talked to our attorney, and the day that I was notified from Santec, I got a hold of Kevin, either that day or the next day, shared it with him, and asked him, what do we do with the board? Because Santec asked me to not reveal this information because it was being investigated by the Department of Justice and all the things that they're supposed to have in terms of keeping acquisitions like this under wraps, so that some folks don't take advantage of those things from a stock perspective. So to the extent that, yes, I didn't apprise Kelly or any of the board members, I apologize. But again, I talked to our attorney and said, what should we do about the board? And he said, well, let's just kind of see what happens.
It's still the perception, said when this happened, the idea that you were the only one that knew. Santec knew. Like I said, Loudon County has been awfully good to Santec with the contract that they have made millions and millions and millions of dollars off our landfill. And like I said, I guess if you look at the contract that we have with them and everything, it wouldn't matter whether we liked it or not. There's not a thing that we can do to keep them from selling this.
Nope.
Not a thing we can do. And whoever buys it, are they going to be, are they going to have to honor the contract that Santec has?
Yes.
They have to honor our current contract right now. We're still in negotiations.
For the extension?
For the extension.
I would like to see your attorney or the solid waste attorney, it would be, I think, an opportunity to approach Republic and say, we want to renegotiate the contract. If you buy this from Santec, we don't like the contract that we have. It's not a fair contract with the county. Would you consider renegotiating the contract if you buy this landfill?
Well,
they're not buying the landfill.
Huh?
They're not buying the landfill. They're potentially buying Santec, which is taking over the contract.
Banana, tomato, whatever. That's what they're doing. And like I said, I've never been a big fan of the contract that we ended up with, and I know the people how we ended up with it. And like I said, there's not, besides gripe and complain, there's not a whole lot we do about it. But I thought this might be an opportunity if we're going to sell. Of course, I could see no reason why Republic would want to renegotiate because Santec's got I'm sure they think everybody over here doesn't have much sense that they'd negotiate a contract like we have with Santec that they'd want to renegotiate it. That's just a sore spot. I just think it's just, if you could look up the word incompetent in the dictionary, it would be whoever negotiated this contract with Santec, because they've made, Pat, millions and millions, and anyhow, we've got the short end of the stick. I just think it'd be an opportunity to renegotiate. I know that's not going to happen, but the impropriety of you knowing and nobody else knowing kind of thinks, is there something else going on that we should know about? Since, and I understand they probably didn't want, a lot of people know that we might undermine their ability to buy this company. But I still think you had an obligation to your board to at least let them know. You should have let them know that, hey, here's a heads up. Don't know for sure, but this is what's going on, because they're the ones that's, as far as I know, it's run by a board, not run by one man.
Right.
The CEO of Republic makes $2.5 to $2.8 million a year. His total compensation with stock options and everything is roughly $28 million. They made, I believe, in 2019, $10 million. They're in 40 states. 76% of their employees are actually very satisfied with Republic and working with them. They're going to take care, and talking about, and I'm not saying this, but it makes you wonder, all this being secrecy and someone by Santec talking about making sure somebody doesn't jump on stocks, who knows? And that's not meant to be any accusation, but by them staying quiet and looking at salaries, and their board is very diversified, they have a very excellent background, there's no doubt. But just the not knowing, Steve, is the thing, and I've always had respect for you, but I think Santec should have had the priority, or should have had the respect for this commission and the city of Loudon and the city of Lenore City to come and sit down and talk to us in good faith. And I would be happy to share that with people from Santec or Republic, either one. Because we are sworn, when we take that oath, we're sworn to try to benefit or to work for the citizens of Loudon County.
Sure, understand.
Here's mine, Steve. We are where we are. There's the options out there. I think if I talked to Kelly or saw it somewhere, read it somewhere, I think you all have voted to continue the contract negotiations with Santec, the contract extension negotiations.
Right.
As opposed to just stop everything, sit still, let this contract run out on Republic in 2027 or 20, whatever it is. So you got your couple of options right there. Continue to negotiate, leave the contract as is. I think in your email you sent us, there was quite a valuable aspect of renegotiating into the millions of dollars for the stakeholders, not the county, but for all the stakeholders. I think that's your all's board to deal with. For me, my interest is the security of what happens at the landfill. We know what we had with Santec, and some of us go far enough back, David, to know how we've come from the landfill to where it was 20 years ago to where we're at now. It's a whole different beast than it used to be. The Republic may want to do things different and bring stuff from other places. I have no idea. But I want to make sure we have the assurances that whatever happens, our landfill is going to continue to operate like it is, not just massive amounts of waste coming from all over the United States, from 40 states, as David referred to they were in. And then I saw in your letter also that in the new contract, we would get out of having to sign the bond, essentially take responsibility for closure. If I'm not mistaken, that's part of the new contract negotiation.
That's right in the letter.
So that's as big as anything that comes right there. Everybody else is right. We've taken a bath on this landfill. I don't care. Santec's in business. We own the property. We've got however many hundred tons of garbage every day got to go somewhere. So who gets the money doesn't matter. I just want to make sure whatever the longevity of this is, that the stakeholders are still secure in our place. Secondly, as we talked now 6 years ago, 5 years ago or something, do we just want to sell the landfill? Is that not something we'd ever consider? Just get us out of the landfill business.
But now I have this question that I did want to pose is there one of our entities that at some point, or our stakeholders, I should say, one of our stakeholders at some point that wants to, at the end of this contract, take over the landfill?
If I'm on county commission, I would not vote for this stakeholder to take it. I wish we were completely out of the business altogether.
I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed. We had a meeting the other night. We had stock negotiations at one point. And at our meeting the other night, there was a vote to begin negotiations again with Santec. And I voted against it, and the reason I voted against it was I felt like that I needed to come here to let my stakeholder know what was taking place.
What does the extension take us to? What's currently, if we do nothing, the contract expires when?
2027.
Okay, if this extension were to pass and it was adopted, what's that run it out to?
It would depend on the rate of garbage coming in, but somewhere between 2035 and direct dead date of 2038.
What's their profit off that landfill annually?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Oh, Happy can tell you.
I did a calculation in 2016, and they were up to about $27,064,650.
Gross?
Gross. And of that, those were the raw gross tipping fees. And of that, the three entities, the solid waste, received 2.8. So roughly, it's a 90-10 split. And, you know, that was in 2016.
Pretty favorable.
It's grossing about $3 million a year. And of that, we are getting 10%. That's highway robbery. We own the landfill.
But we have no liability.
Yeah, right now, we have plenty of liability.
Well, as long as
Until we're under the new contract.
as long as Buddy's got to sign that bond.
Let me address the information I provided you.
Why don't we just sell it?
And I'll address the sale question here afterwards. But what I wanted to provide the board was some information to go by in terms of in 2027, if we did nothing, what does it look like liability-wise? And that was the $9 million roughly. That's probably a high number, but it's a defensible number in terms of what's it going to cost to close 41 acres of a landfill if you wanted to get out of the landfill business. Maybe we don't want to get out of the landfill business. But I wanted to provide some information about what's the potential liability if we did nothing, and what does it look like on the revenue side in terms of how much money will we have in the bank to accommodate that liability. And we're certainly underwater, which is why we're trying to do the contract renegotiation. But that's what I wanted to provide you with some information about if we did nothing, what does that look like? And we're clearly underwater. And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing these negotiations with Santec. Now, granted, Republic decided they wanted to buy Santec. At some level, it certainly changed the equation, but it doesn't change our existing contract. And according to Santec, in terms of moving forward on the negotiation that we've been involved in, it doesn't change that. We're still trying to get that across the finish line, where they would assume responsibility for closing the landfill on their dime, which is about a $9 million.
That's huge.
And then also providing the bond so that it relieves the mayor from having to sign the letter every year proposing future tax revenue should TDEC have to come in to close the landfill. So in terms of this new deal, it's much more favorable to the board, but also the stakeholders, in terms of taking care of that closure liability completely, and also dealing with the bonding issue.
Do you know if, in the negotiations with Santec and Republic, if Republic goes through and the contract is extended, do we have or in the contract, we have a guarantee that they're not just going to simply bring in a tremendous amount of out-of-county waste and put it in the landfill and close it up early?
The contract the current contract, and this gets carried forward on the current negotiation we're going through, has an 800 ton per day cap. And there's also a cap where they can't bring in garbage further than 150 miles.
Well, I make me warm. He's telling me the truth right now.
Now, the one thing to be mindful about is the picture that Richard created in terms of all these train loads full of garbage coming out of Atlanta to Matlock Bend. he forgot he wasn't aware that there's 3 or 4 facilities that Santec owns between Atlanta and Matlock Bend. Why would they want to bring garbage here if they have options that are closer to them? Clearly, the solid waste business is really sensitive price-wise, and transportation costs are a big part of that. Clearly, a large company like Republic likes to operate large landfills, and they like to bring in lots of garbage. My concern is that they're clearly going to try to bring in as much garbage as they can, but again, there's a cap that they have on the landfill.
If they operate like Santec, which is my understanding on more than one occasion, more than one area has been a breach of contract on different times during our contract with them, and you say they're not supposed to do this. We're actually, this is one of the things in government, local government, that just really flabbergasts me, that we have absolutely, I know you say our board does, but really, we don't have any control over this. Well, there's not a thing that we control about this. Like I said, and I can see why Republic would probably start salivating at buying our landfill when they see the contract that Santec has.
Well, in terms of, can I address the purchase issue?
And they say, well, they're not supposed to do this. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they'd honor everything that they should. And it bothers me that now we're going to be a national conglomerate landfill with even less say over what is brought into it here. It really bothers me that this is going to happen, but it's like that lightning strike. Ain't a whole lot I could do about it to keep it from happening.
Right. In terms of purchasing the landfill, at some level, I think that Republic would love to own Matlock Bend landfill, because from a strategic standpoint, we're in a very favorable place for the market that they want to develop. Now, if you sell the landfill, you sell whatever kind of control you might have, but I can't see.
We don't have it.
Well, we do have some control. We have a ceiling for what they can bring in terms of tons per day. We have a radius that they can bring in.
How does anybody actually go out on a regular basis and check landfill, like the TDEC, or anybody that checks landfills to see that you're not, running a Homer Simpson thing, dumping radiation waste and everything? Do we have any assurances when somebody buys that they're not going to put things in the landfill that shouldn't be there? Is that checked on a regular basis, or do we just take their word for it?
TDEC comes out to landfill at least once a month. And they're looking at the records, they're looking at how the waste is being handled.
Do they actually, and it may be something that's not possible, is there any actual way that they say, hey, you all put something in this landfill that shouldn't be here?
I get a call about the coal fly ash out of Rome County. Yeah. Been in my office for 2 days straight and I hadn't known nothing about it.
Are we taking that?
I don't know if we still are or not.
No, it wasn't coal ash, it was construction debris that had asbestos in it.
Yeah, we're way off the mark here. If we could
Well, I think this was much like the jail. We're learning, we're finding out. I always fall back on this right here. We have a solid waste commission, not a committee, not a board. They're a commission. They've been charged with certain authorities outside our scope, to be honest. We have our representatives sitting here. You've got Mr. Jameson in the back. Loudon has representatives. Old City has representatives.
Who's here? Miss Booth.
Oh, okay. And so, I can recognize people don't match them. But, so we kind of have to take, our solid waste commission
to do the right
thing.
thing.
Their job. And they're there. They're at those horrendous meetings. I don't know how many of you have been, but I wouldn't attend 1/4. They're the office meetings I've ever seen in my life. So, At this point, I've raised my concerns. I want to know about the security and the long term of our landfill if we're going to keep it. And I want this liability issue with this bond thing, which is it's crazy that we have to do that on the landfill. Let somebody else contract it, but then we on the bottom end are totally responsible if something blows up. That's nuts on our side right there. Fortunately,
You're never out of the landfill.
Well, don't we know that? Don't we know that?
We'll learn that one hard way.
What does your attorney for your all's
Kevin Stevens.
board, what's his feeling on letting the contract expire? Does he think it's a good idea?
No, I don't think it. I think that well, Kelly, you.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that I think he, like the board, would like to complete the negotiations that we're in because it puts the board and the stakeholders in a much more favorable position in terms of having Santec close the landfill and be responsible for that bonding.
How does the board feel about all this?
They voted to continue negotiations, apparently.
I was the only one that voted against it.
But you said it was because you wanted to come here.
I do. I
Wanted to get us informed.
And on the 150-mile radius, we did vote to amend the current contract to ask Santec to go to 75-mile radius. Okay, now they can come back and say yes or no. If they say no, then
that was a two-part reason for that motion to come up for the board, and that was to see their willingness, because we've done that not in the present day negotiations, we've done that to do an addendum to the present day contract to see what their willingness was to bring back. If they say, oh no, we can't bring a trash up from Atlanta, it's too far, it's not economical, but they can according to our contract present day. If they limit it to 75, that shows a good faith effort to go back to negotiations on the board.
And supposedly whatever we have in place before Republic actually takes over, Republic will have to honor.
Do you think Republic would have any input with the Santec officials as to what they would like to have in place?
Oh, they're already having that input. I mean, that was part of what I was upset about, was because they had this discussion and they had been discussing this, and then Steve finds out that they're in negotiations to sell. So they've known all of us about what we're doing, but we didn't know what they were doing.
That goes back to the question, can we trust them to honor their contract? No.
Well, and here's the one thing too that I want to check on too, is before the county's under purchasing the county's under purchasing regulations too, and purchasing clauses. So purchasing puts a clause in contracts that a contract cannot be sold without written permission from the county. So I don't know, of course, we're not selling, but they're taking our contract, so I don't know.
To that point, that our contract, not necessarily through the contract, through the county purchasing regs, but in our current contract language, it says that Santec cannot assign our contract to another vendor or another entity.
Unless it's written permission?
Right. However, if the whole company gets bought, they buy the company with the existing contracts, and that's the way it is.
I disagree with that.
I'd be curious about that one.
I would too. I think
They can't, I mean, that's free, yeah.
Bob Holman needs to take a look at that. If that language is in that contract, that contract cannot be sold without written permission, I think it gives you an out if you choose to take it.
But again, they're not selling the contract to operate Matlock Bend. There's a stock purchase by Republic from the owner of Santec to purchase his shares of stock. Now, how to take,
He's going to take controlling interest.
and again,
It'll still be called Santec.
I'd still like to see what Bob Bowman said about it.
Not necessarily it'll be called Santec either, because they said they'd be easing in some of their equipment, their trucks and everything. So yeah, it'll eventually say.
They're selling the assets.
Good, as far as it looks, it's an asset.
Contract, we keep saying contract. There's no way that this county commission is involved in this contract, is there? It had never come to us for approval.
Well, we don't have the new negotiated contract. It's not complete to
We
bring.
didn't have the old.
Well, that was long before me. The old one, as it stands right now, is what we're operating on.
Well, it may be, but I was here whenever the county commission, David, you were too, voted on the contract. And my first year here, I voted on the contract that big.
And didn't know what was in it.
It was first meeting.
Yeah.
The first meeting, here, it said you got to vote on it tonight. And since that time, there has not been a contract before this board. So how are we involved? You keep saying contract, both of you do. Contract. We haven't okayed a contract.
That's true, that there is an operating agreement between Sandvik and the Solid Waste Board. The Solid Waste Board, we own the landfill through the interlocal agreement. And you folks are 1/3 of that interlocal agreement.
How many people are on the board?
7. 5 represent the county, 1 from Lenore City, 1 from City Loudon.
I have one more question. When you were involved and they told you about the negotiation that was taking place, you were sworn to secrecy not to tell that, weren't you?
Right.
Lots of people.
I think that standard protocol when you have a sale of a large corporation, not to divulge that sale.
I can understand it stops, but speculations, I don't agree.
Well, when I received the call from Santec, I contacted our attorney, said, Kevin, this is what's going on. How do we notify the board? What do we need to do? And he said, well, let's just wait and see what happened. And COVID ramped up, and the next board meeting that we had, the information was out there, and we began discussing it.
Well, it's a shame we had to hear it from Richard Akelin. That's my feelings.
Yeah, I understand. And again, I apologize to Kelly and the other board members, but when I provided some, you folks are blessed and cursed with somebody who works in Oak Ridge that is told, you don't talk about things. And when somebody tells me you don't talk about it, I don't talk about it.
Well, see, the reason,
and I understand your frustration.
It would be different if there was a legal basis for that to occur. That there was nothing legal about this. All those companies wanted to do was to be quiet so as not to impact the sale on how much money one was going to have to spend and how much money the other was going to make. For us, it didn't make a hill's beans worth of difference because we're bound with that contract like the guy with the albatross around his neck. We're bound by that, so there was no reason you couldn't have told the board because, unless you just felt honor bound, my response would have been, I'm sorry, we can't operate this way. The board at least needs to know that this is going to happen. Because, like I said, it's not legal. There's no federal law that says that you are bound not to say anything about it. And if it had sold or not would have not made any difference to Loudon County because what we get is in the contract. So it just, and that's all. So I think we beat this to death unless anybody else got something.
One last question. What's the chances of getting the contract amended that you're working on before the sale so they'll have to live with it?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of where we're at, I think we're really close, but you've been hearing that on me for a long time, but I think we are really close. And I don't know when the deal's going to close exactly with Republic. It's probably going to be
the guy
a number
from
of months.
Republic said, what, Larry, it might be next year.
In the third quarter, possibly fourth quarter, but by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So you got
End of this year?
got 5 more months.
Well, it could close by the end of third quarter, possibly in the early fourth quarter, but most likely to the end of fourth quarter before the year runs out.
Any further discussion?
Just
Steve?
FYI, some of the concerns, I'll speak for myself. I can't say I have a lot of confidence in your board attorney. Just as that's got nothing to do with this, just as a point to be able to tell you that at this point in time, we've not had a lot of real good interaction with your board attorney.
You can throw TRDA in that umbrella now.
Well, huh?
You can throw TRDA under that.
Either
umbrella
attorney now?
No, but he's the one that attacked us in Nashville.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, just as a footnote.
I appreciate the feedback on that. Any other questions? I think.
Any other questions?
I'm done.
Thank you,
We just
Steve.
killed the messenger.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate your efforts, and I wish that I could be bringing better news. But again, if we are successful with these negotiations, it dramatically changes our financial picture, which is why we're pushing so hard on it.
Susan, tell us about this multi-year voice phone service contract for the schools.
And before Susan speaks, for me personally, I'm sure the commission, I want to thank you for you've been tasked with 2 Herculean jobs. One with the courthouse fire and the other one with this jail.
And thank you.
And you have been tasked just one of those alone would have been tough to do, but we appreciate everything. Hopefully, maybe we can do more than words one of these days, but I want to let you know we really appreciate it.
And said we're giving everybody 3% next year.
Yeah.
I remember that comment.
And we do bonuses at Christmas time.
Okay, that's good.
We
Just
heard
FYI.
stuff tonight that's really good. I'm not at liberty to tell you.
The state announced we're getting an additional
Why you don't tell that out loud?
Okay, so
$300,000.
$300,000 on top of it. We're going from $911,000 to $1.2 million.
1.1.
Do the schools get more as well on top of that?
They're hoping to.
That's up today.
And I've given you, thank you.
Okay, Susan, tell us about the multi-year
It's a
contract.
renewal contract. It's a contract they already.
Hold on, guys.
It's a contract they're already involved in. It provides the voice systems for all of the schools. So it's just a renewal. There's no cost increase. It's a 3-year renewal contract.
Put it on August 3rd for a vote?
Yes, please.
Got it.
And you stayed for all that, and we could have moved Susan to
We could
the
have done
front.
that too.
well, we needed her there earlier.
Yeah.
Early on.
I enjoy listening to all of the conversation. It keeps me informed.
That is not
There's things that go on.
You can watch on YouTube from your
Hey, she's second district. She can fill in the vacant seat over there.
I think so.
If I retire, I might just do that.
There you go.
Dan, take us through your items on the ATM.
The Wi-Fi went out for me for a minute. I'm not on data.
Buddy has something. Van's gonna take us through Tracy's stuff. We'll do Buddy and then Kelly. Go ahead.
So I'm next.
You're next.
Okay, I'll hit. Miss Barker's had a good long evening with us here.
She's probably frozen by now like the rest of us.
All right, back during our budget conversations, we had a lot of talks about a lot of different things. And like Ms. Barker said, our school systems probably in fact, we already know they're already in a bigger jam than any of us are. They lost $200-something thousand of the BEP, I understand, Mr. Tinker, that we thought we were going to get. Yeah. So when we looked at this and talked about this back in the budget process, we really, I don't know, we batted around back and forth, but it never really got any real traction. But nobody ever put together the numbers or anything like that. So
Well, they said to identify revenue sources.
that's right. So right here it is. This is for the last number of years, and this comes from documents that I got from Chip Mill. I laid one of these at everybody's desk. You had one.
Yeah, I got it.
AFT on the top corner. In fact, I laid two. The other one's autopsies, but we'll get that in a minute.
We'll put them together.
Okay. I started putting them on the same page, and I thought, I don't know how to do that. But anyhow, here's what the AFT has done since 9/10. I just kind of went a 10-year span right there. And my statement in the paper that Ms. Barker referenced was that as it has grown, if the change happens now, they'll still be getting more money than they used to get. I may not have communicated that clearly, but you can see the numbers right there. What our discussion in budget had been was to talk about, right now, Little City gets 15%, we get 85%. The consideration was to change it from 85-15 to 90-10. You can do the math, you all got calculators and all that, and you can see what that does.
Well, what it does is it drops Lenore City this year, or 2019-20 is 169,350. We'll drop down to 112,900.
There you go, for one random test pattern there. What we had talked about taking the money for is not for us. In fact, our school system can only use this money for two things, and that's capital projects and debt service. Absolutely cannot use it for another thing. I think Lenore City just spends theirs in their general operating. If I'm not, but it doesn't matter. Y'all do what you need to do. It's fine and dandy.
Whatever, what's right.
Yeah, whatever you do with it's fine. We just make the contribution. When it was passed, the county just decided to voluntarily do this. It's not required to give anything. But for whatever reason, they picked 15%. Well, you can see how it's grown over time. And the question is, do we want to put more of it back to the Loudon County Board of Education or continue to give more of it to Lenore City? If we were to keep it, the extra 5%, that 5% would be designated, earmarked, and specifically going to education capital projects. Right now, and if I'm not mistaken, we just recently approved $800,000 give or take expenditure from our capital project, from the Board of Education capital projects.
And they have a 5-year plan put together.
Right. And so there's no revenue going in there. There's zero revenue going into that capital projects right now.
And in 5 years, there will be very little left.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So what I'm looking for, if this body wants to do it, is to have a revenue source going back in to refill, if you might call it, the Board of Education capital projects.
What happened to the revenue source that was going into it?
It was transferred out to pay debt? No.
Educational debt, yes.
Yeah, debt service.
Because we asked Tracy.
That's
so
right.
that we could afford to pay for the jail?
Do what?
So we could afford to pay for the jail?
I believe that's possibly correct.
That is exactly correct, yeah.
I'm not sure what your point is, but what I'm looking for...
Well, here's my point. Let me, if I may...
What I'm looking for, what I was hoping we could do is get some revenue back to the Loudon County Board of Education.
That's very kind of you, sir, if I may.
I'm always about the children. Everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows you're always trying to help out this.
That's right.
This is another, there was a revenue stream going into that. It was taken away and given to go in order to pay for the jail. Now, you want to rob another person to try to put a little back in there, so in 2 more months, you can vote to take that money out of AFT and have it go to debt service as well, so that you can pay for something else. I would be opposed to this on many different levels.
The 5% equals $56,450.
Correct.
On my Lenore City education.
But this is not a fixed amount. This revenue can change with construction.
It goes up or down. Yeah.
That's right. It's not a fixed dollar amount by any means.
Dr. Barker, do y'all use it exclusively for capital projects?
That's what I wanted to ask too.
Well, I'm going to ask Jeannie Mallory, my business manager, to answer that because I want to make sure you give the best answer.
Well, and
I have to say that our school system has probably in excess every year in capital projects more than what we're collecting from AFT. We, we have a long history of doing improvements to our school system, repairs. We've got a big roof project going on right now. So
but the revenue coming from the county, that AFT, it goes directly into capital projects only. Is that safe to assume?
We don't have it in a capital projects fund, but it is used in our general purpose for capital projects.
So it goes into general purpose?
Yes.
And I'm not for it, but my concern is if we can only use it for debt, retirement, or capital projects.
Why do they get?
I can answer that, because it's not their AFT, it's a contribution from us to them.
But we get out of AFT though.
Don't matter. They can use, I talked to Tracy about this earlier today. It's just money we hand over to them.
That's actually county money. All of it is county money. The county just decided.
But why could we donate it to 141 and give teachers raises with it, for that matter?
Because the state law says it can only be used for capital projects and debt service.
But yeah.
What we give them is just,
But it comes out of the AFT funding.
I know that, but what we give them is a contribution. It's not necessarily AFT money. Bill's with me. We're just handing them money. They're not obligated by the same law we are. We didn't have to give them any of it.
How come they're not obligated by the same law? Because everyone in the county collects.
It's not.
Are we reimbursing county school general out of that AFT money, or are we just giving it out of the county general and AFT money staying where it's at?
You talking about them?
No,
it's just a check written. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
It does matter in my mind. If that money,
there is no AFT. Every penny of our AFT is going to debt service right now. Every penny.
Yeah, I understand that.
No, 85%.
Nope. Don't think so.
So, okay.
They can do whatever they want to.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're just trying to figure out why.
But I mean,
we don't know what we're doing.
David and Harold, when they set this up, David, the state, and did the state, it was a county thing. The money was to come into the county.
100%. County Powers Act is what it's under.
It came into the county.
That's correct.
And so
somebody agreed to give them part of it.
This body said
when we started that, so in essence, all the taxes from AFT belong to Loudon County.
That's correct.
And it must be used for.
But when they did this, the county commission then decided to share with Lenore City.
That's correct.
And give them, 15%. And I can see where there's some questions. Should the same discretion apply to the city as it does to the
See, I thought it was coming directly out of AFT, straight to their.
But I'm like, man, if it's our money, it come to us, and we just decided we're going to write Lenore City a check for $57,000 out of AFT. It's just but again, if it's just for capital projects and debt service, I could see where somebody might say, well, if we give that to Lenore City, that has to be the same. The state says that's only two things that can be spent on.
But the state didn't say we had to give it to them.
But wasn't the AFT?
We're just doing it. I know.
I'm just saying.
Wasn't the AFT put on the ballot?
No. County Commission passed it in November of 2016.
The County Commission has Dr. Barker on one back, and Mr. Duff and I still have a lot of scars from 307 emails, 307 individuals here that night. And when we passed it and when it was done, we had thought that money was going to be utilized in Lenore City as it was in the county.
Yes. And we don't have any problem with that.
And the thing is that, during that time period, we didn't see a representative from the school system down here because we took a tremendous amount of heat for about a month. I think we spoke to every realtor in East Tennessee.
I believe it was a little more than a month that we took the heat.
Well, and there's some questions.
It's still going on, Commissioner.
Yes. There is still some question, can Lenore City have their own? I don't know that answer. That's not my interest.
Lenore City cannot.
Because we did.
I'm not sure, but I have.
We did the County Powers Act.
Legal opinions. So.
We did the County Powers Act, which gave us this one right here. Then there is also an impact fee. Maybe one of the last taxes Lenore City hasn't passed. I mean, they've not missed many, but I don't think they've passed that one yet. But again, whether or not they have to use it the way we do, I don't know the answer to that. According to Tracy, and in my opinion also, they're not obligated by ours because it's a county law. We adopted it under the state regulations, and it's all our money. Then if we just decide to dole out 15% of it to some other entity, they're under no obligation, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong, but they can probably give us an opinion.
You're probably right.
But if we were told we
Commission, if I could say, we do educate 34.5% of the students, and that includes county students. So, we are part of the county as well. Just saying.
Well, no question or debate about that. We educate city students too, so we all swap back and forth.
Well, and my whole thing was, I thought if Chip collected $1,000 of AFT, then 150 of it automatically went. My revenue streams originated from is what.
We know we missed out on somebody of that development in Lenore City, the code.
Yeah, buddy. They never paid
I don't
any.
know how it got through, but we never collected a single dollar.
How do we not collect that?
You have to ask Chip. He said he would never report it. Guys, here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm at with this. All we were doing is looking for revenue streams. I heard Mr. Tinker make his statement. I understand Mr. Tinker represents that area, and I've talked to Tony Aikens. I'll be honest with you. I called Tony on the front end, and I said, Jeremy Nash is working on a story. Don't get surprised when you see it. He said, now I'll have to oppose it. I said, I would expect no less of you. And I appreciate Lenore City and what they're doing and all their work, but I think we have an obligation to think about Loudon County also. So I'm going to ask for this to be on the agenda on August the 3rd, and everybody can vote however they want to on it. But I think we ought to shift to 5%. Lenore City will continue to gain the 10%, use it however they want to use it. We'll take our 5% and replenish our Board of Education Capital Projects Fund.
I wish that it won't do that.
There is a law that talks about maintenance of efforts, and I'd ask you to look into that as well. There is a law that talks about maintenance of effort. Yes.
I don't think this one falls under.
It does.
But I would also, as I brought out at the meetings, and I'd like to be able to sit down with you and discuss before any actions are taken by either entity.
I would appreciate that.
Well, talk to them between now and August 3rd, David. Because I want on the agenda.
Yeah, she doesn't have anything going on between now and August 3rd. No.
Well, I appreciate the information that Van's given to us, it's something to think about, but.
No way you can speak here.
You want the last word?
If it was a large amount of money, I would, think about it, but I'm not sure this amount is worth the bad PR.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Duff for the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'm against what County Commissioner Shaver has just presented to you. I will vote against it, and I would request of the chairman not to include this on the next county commission meeting. For this reason, 2 years ago, I guess it was, this commission took 3 cents away from Lenore City schools. 1 year ago, they took an additional 3 cents, pennies, 6 pennies from their, from what they were receiving from the county school money. The money was taken away.
What did we take away from
6 cents. 6 cents. You did. Took it away. You told me that you did. At this meeting,
We've never taken anything from Lenore City Schools Commission, I promise.
6 cents. 2 years in a row, 3 cents.
We increased the Lenore City tax rate.
He's recognized me to speak. You've spoken all night, and I believe that someone else needs to speak on this. And now you come with this. So what you did was take 6 cents of their tax money away from them. Now, here you are tonight and in the News Herald, where you get a lot of publicity. I think bad publicity, but...
leave me alone, Jeremy.
But now you're willing to take this away from them. That's money. So you can call it whatever you want to. On the previous take that has already been done. But this is that same thing over again. Take money away from Lenore City, put it in this budget down here. Now, you can't deny that that is actually what happened. You can sugarcoat it any way you want to, but you can't deny that that is what is being attempted here. Now, if this was Loudon County, that we were doing this, taking their 6 pennies and now this AFT money away, I would sit here and object to that. I wouldn't want you to do that to Loudon, like what is happening to Lenore City.
Well, they did multiple times. With your objection and mine, but it's happening every year.
So that's my speech. You can say whatever you want to. That is the bottom line.
Now, correction, we've never taken anything from Lenore City Schools. No pennies, no 6 pennies, no 10 pennies. No. Tinker could help you to get where you're going with that. You're talking about a tax increase for Lenore City's general. We never taken anything from the schools. We don't have the ability to take anything from the schools.
I think that is a misrepresentation of the truth.
Superintendent Barker, you want to answer that?
Well, Mr. Duff knows, and he is speaking correctly. And indeed, our funding body is through the Lenore City. And so when you take it away from Lenore City, that affects Lenore City schools.
We haven't taken anything from Lenore City.
Yeah, but what
you took monies out of the debt, out of the school funds, which changed the tax rate in Lenore City, for Lenore City to have to pay more in order to make maintenance of effort, as we talked about. So it is the same.
I can't let this go. This is just silly talk. Nobody's ever taken anything from Lenore City, school or city. When the tax rate goes up, that's not taking money away from them. And Lenore City, as far as that goes, is still 20 cents less than the county general people that are paying a property tax rate. So this 6 cents is a myth. Jeremy, be careful with this. Ain't nobody ever took 6 cents from anybody. We don't even have the ability to take 6 cents. If anything, as Lenore City's enrollment goes up, you all get a larger piece of the BEP. So we haven't taken, you all have as increased, not as anything we've done or you've done, but you all have gone in the last 5 or 6 years from about 30% to 35%. But this idea that we ever took a penny from Lenore City, we've not taken a penny from Lenore City or Lenore City schools. If their tax rate goes up, that doesn't take money from the schools unless your city government did something. We didn't do it.
The decisions you made
where the money went.
Eventually affected us, yes.
How?
Mr. Duff, you want to share?
That's the way they do.
I'm not gonna let this happen.
They pass a budget up there just like you do here.
Okay.
And that money there goes into education.
All right.
All of us is the
So
same.
how did we take 6 cents from anybody?
By raising to 3 cents of one
Okay.
year.
How did that take money away from somebody? Hang on, Henry, I can't let this one go. I want to know how we took 6 pennies from Little City
I
Schools.
can't let it go either, but I've stated my case and I stand by it.
That's fine. I just want to know how we took 6 cents from Little City.
You did it.
How?
And the same way, same thing is happening right here.
I will.
With that, right there. They're the same
If this
thing.
were to pass, this would be the first time in history we ever reduced funding of any sort from Lenore City.
Okay,
That's the third time you did.
It's never happened.
Ever. 2 times.
Okay, here's the deal. Do you still want to leave it on?
Yes,
the
I
30
want to
or
leave it,
withdraw?
Check the records.
Yes.
Check the records.
Is anybody here, can anybody else explain to me how we took 6 cents from Lenore City?
Can we?
No. I need this cleared up. Jeremy's sitting there with his ink pen going, he's ready to go home, and there's an accusation being made that this body took 6 cents from Lenore City. How did that happen?
And that's the same way you're trying
How
to
did it happen?
What we did caused the Lenore City government to raise taxes to replace that.
replace it.
Their tax rate went up. They didn't raise anything. Their tax rate stayed exactly the same.
Okay, he's good at twisting it around.
I'm waiting on one person to tell me how we took money from Little City Schools.
There's times. So
$5. Find me $5 we took from Little City Schools. Anybody in this room?
Okay, here's the deal. If it stays on, we all have a vote.
That's
It takes
right.
6 votes to pass, so
And if it doesn't, it's no big deal. We're looking for revenue streams. Here's a revenue stream.
Well, and you want to take it away from another...
And give it to the Loudon County Schools.
Give it to...
Loudon County Schools.
How many percent, what percentage of Lenore City High School is county students?
75. Right?
County schools.
75%.
Yeah.
These are county students.
I'm quite aware.
Okay.
Henry.
What's wrong with us helping with the county, pay the county students?
We're helping enormously. I'm still waiting on 6 cents. I've heard nothing yet.
That's all right.
Autopsies. Here's the deal.
Autopsies.
You're an elected official. You want to put it on April 3rd or August 3rd.
Please put it on.
It'll go for a vote. If it gets 6 votes, it happens. If it doesn't, it fails.
And I'd even be safe to say this, since we didn't do it in the budget process, if it does, it wouldn't go into effect until the next budget process. I'm comfortable with that, because I know they've already got their budget set.
And you can't do it to them.
So I don't have a bit of problem if it's delayed a year, or even moved to the next budget cycle. But anyhow, all right. Everybody done with that one?
We're done. Tell me about autopsies.
All right, you got your little sheet of paper on autopsies. This one is out of control.
Looks like a dead issue.
Give me a
They're dying to get on it.
If you look at those dates, now, you can't tell me more people are dying in Loudon County that require autopsies. I know there's some. Drug overdoses is the big one. Everybody who dies of drug overdose goes through autopsies. Forensics center is what it comes to. They're $1,850 a pop. But you can do the math right there and see as easy as I can. I have no answers for this other than I'm going to look at the mayor, which doesn't give me a great lot of confidence. Somebody needs to talk to Dr. Patel and find out why we have this just enormous increase.
Most of your autopsies are ordered through the DA or the law enforcement anyway.
No, sir, they're going through Patel.
I'll ask and see.
This is why somebody needs to find out what's going on.
Generally, if they die without a history, heart problem,
And a lung.
hospice, they get down to the fringe.
Mayor has...
Let him look into
We
that.
thought with Travis Estes being appointed, that might reduce and stop some of it. It's not.
How about the COVID impact? Are those deaths resulting in autopsies? Or they have to be I know that's probably something.
We've only had 3.
There's only
Yeah, according to the state, we've only had the 3 that were actually COVID related.
Let me point out, 1920 is not a fixed number. Last month, we amended that budget and added $10,000 to it.
Yeah.
So I talked to Tracy yesterday, I guess it was, and she said she doesn't know how many more bills there are outstanding that have not come in yet, that may still yet come in this month from the last fiscal year. So 110 may not be correct on the 1920, but that's what we budgeted for. Again, what I'm looking for is to find out if there's been some legal, to my knowledge, nothing has changed since 2012 to 2020 that would require more people to have to go for autopsies.
Our
county population's increased.
We didn't really hit the pandemic, opioid pandemic, until I was leaving law enforcement 14 when it first started hitting too.
Well, so it was 19 in the first year, 35, 28, 32, 41, 49, 65, and 59.
You're talking about how many autopsies?
Correct.
Well, and who all gets supervisor page?
Nobody anymore. They cut us all off.
No, not the
Saturday.
Not the dispatch app. Saturday, code 73, 62-year-old male. More than likely, maybe.
It'll say forensics on there if he wins.
All right.
Well, no, this is just supervisor page only.
Did you have a question about who has the authority to order?
Well, I know who it is. The medical examiner is the first one. Then as Buddy's saying, if it's a criminal potential act, I think the DA or even the sheriff can ask for it.
They said no.
But anymore, I don't know. I don't know why the medical examiner, I've seen the number of, golly, I don't want to be graphic, but somebody that dies and there is no question why they died, and they send them to forensics. I don't know if something's changed, if there's new.
Why don't I email Dr. Patel and ask for some criteria?
What's the criteria for requiring?
Buddy, I'll leave that with you.
The question we had once before was, what about in the cities? Why don't the cities have to pay theirs? Well, because it's billed through the county medical examiner. There is no city medical examiner. So there is no billing the cities for the ones that happen in the cities. We only have one county medical examiner, and by law, the bill is sent to whoever the medical examiner belongs to. That's the county.
I'd like to hear from your attorney, Bob Bowman, what the law says that we are legally, who has the authority to order and what, and pay and so forth, and clear some things up for me. And then I think it'd be good to hear from Dr. Patel, but it'd be good to find out exactly what extent is the county.
And that position carries a lot, and it's almost impossible to change or even get a new one if you ever decide to retire. It's things like, the individual up here 6, 7, 8 years ago playing Russian roulette, know what got him. Still had to go to forensic center.
It's funny because they're checking for toxic
drugs.
And
once upon a time, the coroner didn't have to be a doctor. He was just elected like everybody.
County coroner is, the medical examiner is not.
The tragedy there at the Parkway on Saturday night.
It was last Monday night. He went there.
I think if you look at national statistics since COVID has started, suicide rates in this country have increased 35%.
They're saying there's actually some of those being listed as COVID related.
Okay, moving right along, Buddy. I'll leave that with you to talk to Patel and ask what Bob has.
Okay.
Dan, tell us about the budget amendment you have in front of me.
I had the cover sheet.
Here, I got it. I'm kind of chair of that committee, so it makes sense.
But you guys have it. But I don't know where my
budget committee, we went over, there was a grant for Grant Library.
There are 2 adjustments.
No matching funds. There was a line adjustment, no, it was not a line adjustment, actually it would be a decrease in school fund 141 from BAP money the state did not pass along.
$200 and some thousand. Right?
There'd probably be more on the way.
And then
there'll probably be another one of those. Is Little City Loop Fund?
The Central Cafeterias Fund, they had I guess it was a grant.
They got a grant.
That actually last year.
We got 2 grants.
That's
one for June, one for July.
But they were all paid in June, is that correct?
Adam helped me with, and the second one was some local groups here that paid for that.
Did they all paid out in June though?
There'll probably be another one for July. I don't know.
Anyway, it's from
I don't know if
grant.
they take
It's from
it out.
grant.
Yes, it
Okay.
comes out of there. There's no cost to the county.
Yeah. Grant money.
It was to
It'll be
pay
on-
all the cafeteria staff who worked since
Yeah. Help feed.
over the summer to provide meals. Almost 200,000.
Wow.
They'll be on the agenda on August 3rd. Buddy, you have one item left you want to discuss.
I do, and I apologize for not adding this on earlier. We could have been out of here by 10. Talked with the Loudon city mayor and included the city manager. Hopefully they've included the city council on this. They've requested a 90-day, or actually a first quarter grace on the planning position that they would pay. This is what I talked to, what I thought commission might go for. That they would pay last year's rate for 1 quarter only. And if they don't have a planner in place, or they wish to continue to use our planner, before that, it would actually be retroactive to what it is at the 85. And so I told them I would ask the commission to entertain that, to be a good neighbor and to give them a little bit of
Stays
time
where
to
it's
get
at
together.
Until September 30th.
And then if
They want 25,000, they'll go back to 25,000.
No, just for the 1 quarter, it would be an amendment to the agreement. For this first quarter, they would pay their quarter of 25,000. If they still need our service beyond that, it would be retro back to the July the 1st.
85.
And moving forward.
Have they signed any agreement now?
Well, if they've had a
They've
meeting.
signed nothing. Kelly, have they signed an agreement?
I took them.
I've had it right up to here with this
I
bunch.
took him the document so that it could be addressed at their workshop. And Mr. Ross was not very happy with me and was quite ugly with me. But I gave him the document. He looked over the document. I did say I was trying to get it there to you so that you could address it at your workshop. Evidently, it was not addressed at their workshop.
They didn't put it on the agenda?
It was not on the agenda, and it was not discussed at their workshop.
Then they must be fine with 85 grand.
85,000.
Well, here it is. We passed it the 1st of June, and Tracy, or I don't know whose idea it was, to pass it the 1st of June to give them time to know what was coming. We moved it ahead just to give them time.
Oh, and it
Yeah.
was stated that they got emails, and we had this discussion too. We had emails about that, and it was stated in a public meeting by Mr. Ross, an email is not a legal documentation. So,
He was coming tonight to throw you under the bus because you'd had it since June 1st, they had not brought them any kind of communication to tell them when it was. If they don't have a signed agreement, Bill, if they don't have a signed agreement, if they haven't signed that, we offer them no services, period, starting July 1st. They get nothing.
kind of throw me under the bus.
They would come to blame it all on you because they didn't have it. I'm gonna tell you exactly what's happening. Tracy or Kelly got thrown under the bus.
I can pull emails. They
Well,
weren't
I
even
got
brought
your-
up at their meeting.
You sent them an email in May that said it was coming.
that's what I said. They did not address it at their workshop at all.
Jeff Harris sat right there the night we voted on it. He come down here to defend the EDA. It was on the agenda. He got up, walked out the door, knowing the 50 grand was on there, and your email told him it might go to 85 grand, and he rolled himself right on out the door right there. They didn't care that night.
Commissioner Satterfield was the one who made the statement. Well, they didn't care anymore.
I got no problem. If they don't have a signed agreement this minute, Jim Jenkins should not be providing them any services whatsoever. Have you ever read the list of what we have to do for them? I mean, we do more for them than we do for the county. Historical. We have to do all the paperwork, and it plays back into this conversation we've been having about us hiring another planner. If we have to hire a planner to do ours and City of Loudon, then we got to hire a certain type of planner. If Loudon's gone and out of our hair, then we can have a planner of a different level. So the whole concept here was to hopefully Loudon would understand it's time for them to get out of the basement and go do their own thing. So I got no sympathy at all.
Put this on the agenda for August.
You want to put it on there?
No, nothing to put on there.
We don't even be doing the work for it.
We're done. July 1st, it stopped without a signed document.
I don't think there's anything to put on there.
Okay, that inside.
I have a question. Are we going to convene the ethics committee?
Oh, I am addressing that.
We got to get to Kelly's part.
That's Kelly's last part of the
I have
meeting.
one question for Buddy.
Can I?
Well, Kelly, go ahead.
Not yours.
Kelly, you're up.
Does it have to do with it, or what is it?
I'm just trying to see where we are with Mark Matlock on Thursday and his roof being off.
Deadline
Another
for the
conversation, actually last week, his attorney and Bob were supposed to be talking, so the 30th, the deadline's coming up Thursday.
Okay.
And I hope we're in court on Friday.
We'll do it Thursday.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Stay overnight.
Well, I had every intention of addressing this issue.
Hold on.
And then I was kindly informed by the attorney that I couldn't address the issue, and I thought, well, I could go to an executive session, but evidently we can't do that either. So I'm gonna hit some highlights. And so here are the highlights. We have had an issue occur in the county with an employee. This issue doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of the mayor, according to some of the documentation and some of the TCA code. And because the mayor doesn't govern this employee, I would like to have the mayor at least call an ethics committee meeting this week, possibly as in Wednesday or Thursday.
Have to have a 5-day notice. Probably next week.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. You can't have Scotty Newman on it.
No, he would not be a part of the committee yet.
Okay, so I would like to have a 5-day notice drawn up for next week so that we can get that meeting rolling, because this issue needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Amen.
It is out in the public, and we need to take some action on this. I'm very disappointed that we couldn't discuss it, but I don't want our Loudon County folks to think that we are not looking at this issue and that we are not going to try to address it.
And standing committee members are yourself, Commissioner Tinker, Commissioner Satterfield, and Road Commissioner, or Highway Superintendent Eddie Simpson. And I'll get that, I'll get Anita to post it
Next
tomorrow.
week that you gentlemen can.
You could have an ad in the paper by Wednesday, the digest. I bet Jeremy can't get one in by Wednesday.
You just have to set it, and then I'll let you know.
During the day, is it bad or good?
No way.
I don't think it'll take long.
That's going to be a 5-day.
4 o'clock or?
Right at the end would be best. You know.
Stop by, holler at me tomorrow.
Okay, I'll have to.
Everybody else is retired, so.
Okay.
Could I ask a question? I think it's concerning this.
If I can answer.
Harold, be careful.
Be real careful, because they told me I cannot
What you
say a
didn't
whole
say
lot.
any names or anything.
That's what the attorney said.
Well, this is a general question.
Go right ahead.
This county commission does not hire nor fire.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, but we can address conduct according to ethics.
And we fund it.
The strongest disciplinary action the commission can actually hand down would be a resolution of a recommendation. You know, whoever this particular individual supervisor is, this commission can pass a resolution directly to that supervisor stating, you know, this is our displeasure, this is detriment to Loudon County, yada, 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 and
so we could do a resolution concerning your subject.
Yes.
To the judge?
yes.
Do a resolution.
To whoever the supervisor may be, Jeremy, be nice.
To whoever the supervisor may be, yes.
We can defund.
And
Say, I say,
any kind of,
Parks gets out here and makes a fool of himself on something. I don't take action. This commission can make a resolution to me stating, this is your guy, he ought to, blah, blah, blah. We request action being made.
And that supervisor can take that resolution and fling it right in the trash can if he wants to.
Yeah, it'll be up to
but that,
Then we could defund, or
well,
give it to her.
actually, there are other issues to address too. There are, contracts that are in place that deal with ethics.
The issue comes down, the individual should have resigned, period.
And so therefore, I'm asking for that meeting.
All right. I have one quick announcement. Thursday, 1 o'clock, Rome County Courthouse will be the first hearing on the Julia Hurley motions. That will be her attorney's motion to dismiss and not ours, but the district attorney's motion. No, we're not dismissing. She got to go. She moved out of her district. I think several of us are planning to go. I wasn't sure if we ought to get the bus up to the juvenile center. Take the bus. I didn't know.
Who's got popcorn?
I won't be able to attend. I've got a meeting.
Well, not till way later in the day.
Can you go into the Rome County Courthouse?
Yes, but you will all but need to be naked.
Take your gun.
Still not be taking the gun in the Rome County Courthouse. No cell phones, nothing. You going in just about bare skin, no kidding. Now, the judge says he will not enforce Ron Woody's mask mandate in his courtroom. I don't know what it'll be, but from going from the sidewalk to the courtroom, you're probably going to have one, so come with a mask of some kind.
They don't have a mandate, do they?
Huh?
Rome County put a mandate
Inside the courthouse. But the judge says, fully on Ron Woody, you come to my courtroom, you don't have to wear one. I don't know what it'll be, but anyhow, just if you're going, get there early, take all your stuff off in your vehicle, and come on in for fun.
What about members of the media?
I'm sure they can go. You won't take anything in with you, I don't think.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
you can too.
I think you can.
Jeremy says media can.
Yeah.
You take your recorder, Jeremy? No.
You have to ask permission to a judge.
All right.
Okay. It's a notepad.
Any further items for the commission?
See, Matt.
Okay.
Where are you going? Man, it's just 9 o'clock.
This video presentation is made possible by Brewster Services Group.